What's up, everybody, and welcome back to The Strategic Veteran. I'm your host, Adam Peters, and today we have the honor of speaking with Mark Messina, a retired U.S. Army Sergeant First Class who dedicated 14 years to service, most notably with the prestigious 82nd Airborne Division. Mark's career in the military is marked by his leadership roles, including serving as a platoon sergeant in the 4th Infantry Division and concluding his service as the Operations Sergeant Major of the 2-1 Security Force Assistance Brigade. Mark's journey is one of resilience and transformation. After being medically retired, he ventured into entrepreneurship where he's made significant strides. He's the founder of Grey Group Tactical, a company dedicated to challenging industry standards and fostering innovation in a market that has seen little change over the past 20 years. We have proudly announced that Grey Group Tactical is the Strategic Veteran's first partner, marking a significant milestone in our mission to support veterans in their entrepreneurial endeavors. In addition to his business endeavors, Mark is deeply committed to supporting veterans in crisis through his role at the board of directors as the director of communications for QRFup.org. This organization provides an emergency response team to assist veterans in immediate crises, helping them and their families reestablish trust, safety, health, and livelihood. Today, Mark will share his journey from military service to entrepreneurship, his challenges during his transition, and his ongoing mission to innovate and support the veteran community. So let's dive in and warmly welcome Mark Messina, a true embodiment of what it means to be a strategic veteran, and little brown bear, Chris Ingram down here, somebody I've mentored through his Army career and continue to in business, and Mark's head of distribution on the West Coast, right?
Yep.
Yeah, man. So welcome, fellas. Welcome to the Strategic Veteran. Welcome to the show, and thanks for being here, fellas.
Dude, cool, man. I'm super jazzed, honestly, to get on with this. We were waiting for a while. And you know what I mean? Because I know we're all super busy, right? And like we're just trying to go out and crush these things out. And I'm super jazzed that Chris and I were both able to get on here and just kind of talk about, you know, where this all started and then where we're going with it too, and share the vision, you know what I mean, from two different vets, right? Like we're both, you know, medically retired vets, and explaining kind of how that transition went for us and then where it's taken us. And why we're actually doing what we're doing, right? Because it's not just about the business, it's about everything else.
Yeah, man. No, dude, I'm so glad that you're here. I'm super excited that you guys, you decided to partner with me and help me out and like get your name out there on whatever small platform I have right now, which is growing every day. And dude, this is going to be awesome. Let's just jump right in. We won't spend a lot of time on your military career. We will spend quite a bit of time on the transition because I know that affected Chris a lot, and I know it probably affected you a lot as well. And so just a little bit of early life, what inspired you to join the Army? And then Chris, you can chime in with that as well.
Dude, honestly, I'll be real with you guys, right? Like everybody comes in with the cool patriotism stories and everything else. No, man, I joined the Army because I really didn't have many other options. And that's just being transparent, right? Like, I was a shithead, dude. And I wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't looking up on anything. And right, like at the end of the day, like I am a 4th generational soldier. So apparently that runs in my family. Right. Like we just run out of options, go hit the Army and spend our lives there. But, no, man, like it's something that I kind of looked at and I'm like, all right, like, I guess this is the route I'm going to go. And that's how I ended up there.
Was it a way out for you?
I don't want to say it was a way out, but it was more so just kind of like I just didn't have anything else positive going on, and I was trending into a really, really bad direction.
Yeah.
And jumping into the Army, like honestly, like it has its pros and cons, right? Like we all know that, but right, like we all know that. But I'll tell you what, man, like the transition from, you know, civilian into the Army for me was probably one of the best things I've ever done. And it made me the man I am today. But again, like we'll get into that in a little bit too, right? Of like where that transformation went from going out. But yeah, what about you, Chris, dude? Why'd you join?
Well, first and foremost, thanks, Adam, for letting me join here. Sorry I was a little late. But yeah, as far as my little origin story, you know, it started in the old, the Midwest, a village of Versailles of maybe 475 people. And at least whenever in December, that's a population size last I checked. But yeah, I had a little bit, my adopted father, my stepfather, was a Korean War vet. So you can imagine this little Islander kid with a 60-year-old, you know, father. And it didn't really inspire me until I like was in senior year of high school. And I was like, holy crap, like, what am I going to do? Right. And so I, just from the teachings of, that of my dad really, and just like that inspiration of just kind of creating your own freedom is just by doing something that's better than you. And right. And I didn't want to stay in my little town of Illinois. And there's nothing against it. I love going back, but there was the inspiration just to get out and do something for myself that was beyond the Midwest.
Yeah, and I relate to that so much because that's why I joined, was to get the fuck out of small town Indiana, right? Like in the farm towns where nobody tells you. I mean, it's either most of the people I went to high school with are either teachers or doing the same exact shit we were doing 21 years ago, right? Like that's not a life for me. I knew that there was more to the world. So, Mark, you spent a significant portion of your career at the 82nd. Chris, you spent most of your career with 123, right?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
The Comanche up there, little Comanche company, 123 Tomahawks. Nah, just kidding. Sorry.
Yeah, man. Mark, what was it like getting to the 82nd for you?
So I think the bigger question is what was it like leaving the 82nd, man? So I showed up as a private, and I didn't know any better. You know what I mean? Like I didn't know that the rest of the Army is like totally different. So I spent from E1 all the way up to, I was about to take a platoon in the 82nd. And then I ended up taking platoon out in Carson. And like I did a few rotations with them and we bounced around. It's just a different animal, man. But growing up there, I'll tell you what, dude, like it is a huge difference because, and this is something I noticed across the rest of the military itself too, is like paratroopers are just different, man. They are a different breed. And there's something about the camaraderie that you build in that aspect because you're risking your life stateside as well as you're risking your life overseas and doing whatever else too, right? Because everyone's like, oh yeah, it's pretty safe now. Like, no, it's not, dude. I watched this kid burn at 1,100 meters and bounce like 20 feet in the air. I mean? He lived, by the way, and he walked off the DZ. We'll talk about that later. Dead serious, sprained ankle. He walked off the DZ. Most of the rest of them were all lawn darts. But like, it's different, man. Like it's a whole different atmosphere. I didn't know any better.
Right. Like, like me, I went to the 3rd ID after my whole debacle with my contract and all that shit. I was supposed to go to RIP after Airborne school. That all didn't happen, whatever, neither here nor there. But we always heard, right, because 3rd ID is also part of the 18th Airborne Corps, and we would get dudes PCSing in from the 82nd, and they'd hate it. They'd fucking hate it because there's something different about that unit. Right. Like, and we all knew it. Later in my career as a senior leader, I would tell guys, they need to tone their shit down before they go to the 82nd because you're going to get in fucking trouble. And sure as shit, man, they would PCS and they would call me 3 or 4 months into their new duty station. Like, man, Sergeant Peters, you were right. I got in trouble. I was like, dude, I tried to tell you, man. Like I tried to tell you. So, Chris, you went straight to 123?
Yeah, after basic training, I first had orders to good old Kansas. And coming from the Midwest, I was like, son of a bitch.
Yeah, going home.
But luckily, they got changed out, whenever, right before we graduated. And like, hey, everybody here will be, going to Fort Lewis. And I eventually ended up in 123.
Did you start in Comanche?
No, I actually started in Apache company.
So you started in Apache.
Yeah.
No, it's just, I just did before you guys, I was with Boyd, George Boyd. Do you remember Boyd?
Yeah. Yep.
So he's a licensed social worker now doing awesome work. And so I got the pleasure of sitting with him for the last 3 hours before I came into this one and taking that trip down memory lane to ACO and what that unit actually was while we were there and what it actually turned into by the time we left and whatnot. What was your experience at 123? Was it a solid unit when you first got there? Because if I'm not mistaken, you got there before I did.
Yeah, I got in there, October of 2008. PV nothing, just understanding striker mechanized. Like even though we come at a basic training AIT, we have all these, thoughts of like, man, this grandeur of like, oh, I'm in the infantry and you think you know it all. And then you're like, okay, I'm in my unit. I'm like, what the heck is that? What is this green pickle that I'm going to be driving in? So yeah, I got there in 2008 and I just spent, 3 years there, deployed with them in Iraq. And it was a great time for me. Honestly, I had a really a good brotherhood. From team leaders to I say this like it was great. Like I know I got my ass smoked off every day, but like it's not like it's I'm like, oh yeah, it was fantastic. We all loved each other and we're all hugging and stuff. No, I mean it was just brutal. But what I did enjoy was the fact that we were all so united in a sense, right? There was always like this, the sense of kinship that we all shared. And no matter what background, I think that was the true enjoyment of what I remembered, right in the first 3 years that I was in the Tomahawks.
Yeah, man. And when I got there in January or February of 11, I remember it to this day. I crutched across battalion to ACO as the strikers were pulling off to go to Yakima. And I was like, dodged that bullet, thank God. However, I had to deal with, oh, this dude's a piece of shit. Cause I was in a moon boot at the time. I just had like my third surgery on my foot. I probably shouldn't have been allowed to PCS, but good old First Sergeant Rob took care of me. And I said it on the last show. I owe that man a lot, as far as, what he did for my career and how he really kind of turned me around. So it seems like that unit from probably like what I hear 2007 till after the 2012 deployment was just shit hot all the time. Yeah. Mark, back to you. You ended up at 4th ID and then served as an E7 as an ops sergeant major for the SFAB. And I believe you helped stand up the SFAB, correct?
I did.
What was that like?
Well, so again, right, like I spent my whole career in the 82nd. I didn't even know what a striker was when I went out to 4th ID. That's not even a joke. I'd never seen them before in my life. The first time I ever actually saw a tank was I got in timeout, right? Because like we all go through our Article 15 phase, right? So I was in timeout and I was up in the S3, and there was several of the NCOs, actually all the NCOs from a platoon that got fired and sent up to the S3 for a little bit because we were apparently too hard on soldiers.
Oh, no.
Right? Like, it's what it is, dude. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
Those are stories for off camera, I guess. But so I was sitting there and our ops sergeant was like, yo, dude, like, can you go line up all these tanks and shit? I'm like, yeah. So I'm out there like banging on these things with like the butt of my rifle so I can get their attention because they're all in that shit sleeping. And like trying to get them all into a formation. And I finally started getting them, and I noticed there was one tank like just like off in the middle of the distance. And I'd never been around these things, right? Like I had no idea. So I walked in between two of the tanks in the column, right? Now it's at night. I had my knots flipped up because I was being a douche, right? Because it is what it is. So obviously I didn't see the heat signature or anything on it. And I thought I lost my face for a moment because I walked directly behind an Abrams.
No.
And I had no idea. You know what I mean? Like I just like that. Like I'd never even seen one up to that point.
So for those listening who don't know what he's talking about, the Abrams is powered by I think it's a Rolls-Royce jet engine. Yeah. And so when it's cold, it's nice to have that. You just can't get too close to it. It sounds like you got way too fucking close to it.
I mean, yeah, I was like, like that far. Like I walked right behind it. You know what I mean? So yeah, fun fact, I lost some hair on the side of my head and my face, and then all the tankers were all laughing at me in their cute little boots.
They're calling you a crunchy.
But yeah, dude, like, right? Like, and it's just like, dude, like, so that was my first experience, like really, with like dealing stuff outside of the 82nd, and then like just the culture shock when I got over to 4ID. And I stepped right in. So as I was going in, I was supposed to go to the light unit. And then I got snagged up by some sergeant major. Like, let me see your EIB, or your ERB, or whatever, right? I'm like, oh yeah, here, dude. Like, he's like, cool. You're gonna come be a platoon sergeant over by me. We've already got a slot for you. I'm like, all right, cool. Like, whatever. I'm like, what do you guys do? And he's like, oh, we're the striker brigade. And I'm like, oh, sweet, dude. What's a striker? You know what I mean? And no joke, right? Like, and you guys are laughing because y'all know, like maintenance, like Mondays, like in the 82nd is like you send 2 dudes over to the motor pool to do like the 3 Humvees in the entire company. You know what I mean? Like that's all you got. So like I didn't even know that was like a real thing. Like I didn't know what an OR rate was. Like walking into a platoon sergeant seat. So like I'm getting sitting there in my console by like Lieutenant Colonel Saddlein at the time. And I mean, just phenomenal leaders over there. They're like honest, like really, really good dudes. But
it's
yeah,
just a different world for you, right? Because you don't know it. All you know is airborne operations. Yeah. I was fortunate to come from the 3rd ID, so I was Bradleys and tanks, and I was never a Bradley crew member or anything. I was always a dismount, so it was basically like being a light guy, except we got a ride to the objective most of the time. And that was, for me, coming to the striker unit, it was really hard in that they don't use the strikers the way that they should use the strikers. Because I'm coming from like a true mechanized unit that uses, I don't care what anybody says. You can make fun of me all you want. The Bradley fighting vehicle is one of the coolest pieces of equipment in the American. And it is fucking phenomenal. I mean, from everything from just backing that motherfucker up to dropping ramp in people's living rooms to 25 millimeter depleted uranium rounds that will go for miles and miles and miles and take out anything. And so the culture shock when I got to Fort Lewis was like, why are we using strikers like this? Why are you dropping me 3 miles from the objective and making me walk? Like, this is an armored platform that you should be taking into the fight. And so like I get what you mean about culture shock.
Yeah, dude, they kept telling me that I had to stay with my vehicle. So I was right, like I come from the light world, and it was super weird. So we had a mech first sergeant, right? So he lived and breathed that mech life. But everybody, all the other platoon sergeants were Rangers and Airborne dudes. So like he hated us, man. Like he absolutely hated us, and like obviously we always called him a fat tanker and whatever else like to his face. Like we won't name drop him, but you know who you are. You know what I'm saying? Like I hope you see this, because you're still a scrub. But anyway, right? Like we ran things just like we did it, like, and that's just how it was, right? Like we had a great bunch of platoon sergeants, and like we had like he was coming up. I remember we were doing this one like brigade six lane or whatever, right? And because I only spent 10 months out there, and then I got pulled into SBAP. Like I wasn't even there for long enough, right? Like I actually like it messed up my promotion stuff because I was like a KD complete staff sergeant. I was already in the seat, was about to pick up that year for 7, and I would have had all my time knocked out. But SFAB actually kind of fucked me in that one. So, but yeah, man, we did that, and then like we were pulling dudes off the X. Like we already had a medevac and like already done, and then he finally showed up. He's like, "Where's all the casualties?" Like they've been gone, dude. They're already at roll 1. Like,
right?
What are you doing?
Yeah, I've had a couple leaders like that.
Yeah, like just be better, dude.
Particularly at a Fort Polk rotation.
Yep.
But Chris, where did you go towards the end of your career? You left Lewis. When did you leave Lewis?
After I left, Fort Lewis, I ended up going to RT. Well, it was 6 RTB. Spent some time in Florida for 2 years as a ranger instructor, and that was a very interesting time in my life. We get that later, but 2 years of instructing, right, as an RI, and really, I eventually ended up leaving. I went to SFAB, right, and I got out in 2022.
So that's how you two got hooked up, was at SFAB.
So Mark
So Mark, walk me through when you met Big Brown Teddy Bear over here.
All right, so I'll tell you this about Chris, right? So I was I stood up SFAB. I was down in like a 0 team, which is a battalion level advising team. And then like the structure there is weird. It served a purpose, and when it first stood up, like it was going to be a shit hot unit. And unfortunately it just isn't now. To be transparent, like it had such great opportunity when it first started, but that's because they pulled like just phenomenal NCOs over there to start. like the first team I was on was just amazing. But anyway, I finished out my time there. I was going through a custody battle because I got divorced there as well too. We can talk about the swamp possum later, but dude, I ain't scared. It's fine. Right. So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like I was going through a custody battle and getting all that stuff done. And so I ended up having to extend my time up there and go through that. So I was there already for the 3 years. I was supposed to go and I want to say I was supposed to go to Campbell and then I was supposed to go back to Bragg. You know what I mean? Because like the mothership called and I had to go home, right?
Right.
That's just how it works for us. It really sucks. You'll never get to leave. Like once you're there, it's just a revolving door. But yeah, no. So I was up in the I was a 3 for a while, just as like the 3 NCOIC, and just kind of figuring out. And that was like a total clusterfuck when I first got up there. Like just property was everywhere, dude. It was terrible.
It's funny how the Army has a way of doing that. Like
Yeah.
they want to stand some shit up, but then everything is just so fucked beyond all recognition that they then like just take dudes like you and just throw them in this spot and
Yeah.
just expect them to make sense of all of this.
Dude, I did though. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
of course, because it's just what we do, right? But also like it sucks.
Yeah, no, it definitely sucked. So like I came up there doing like, so SFAB right at the actual like battalion level, has division level assets. So like everything that you would have for a TOC and a JOC, they have the same as a division. Like,
Okay.
so like think about that, right? Like you have a division staff, you know what I mean? Like even a standard like infantry battalion staff is pretty robust.
Right.
No, there's like 10, 12 people up in that shit. Like I think the max we ever had was like 23 people. You know what I'm saying? So like, yeah. You want to talk about like me and like my boy fucking Matt going through and like firing off a live fire in 3 days? You ever do a battalion live fire planning and prep in 3 days and set it up and then run it by yourself? Because I fucking have. SFAB's really cool.
These guys worked their asses off.
Dude, it was terrible. So like the first time I actually like legit met Chris though, right? Like the first time I ever talked to him, like I've seen him in the meetings, and like he was always just with his notebook over there and just writing stuff down, just doing, you know what I mean, like just great things, right? Like he was just quiet professional. Like I'd never really messed with him or talked to him. He used to talk with my boy Alex Savusa, who is the 3 OIC, whatever. I don't know. Like we were transitioning OICs. He was a junior captain, super good dude, right? Like they're both Samoan, so obviously there was like weird, like, you know, they do stuff in the bathroom together. But so Savusa ended up leaving, and Chris comes and hit me up, and he's like, "Hey man, like when I was sitting here and like everything was kind of going through, like Alex told me like if you ever need help, come talk to you." He's like, "Cause you know it all and you run it all." And I'm like, all right, dude, like I'm gonna take that as a compliment, but it might be a fuck down. I'm not sure yet. And he's like, "I have no idea what I'm doing. I need help." And I'm like, "Okay, like what do you need help with?" You said that. I know you did.
No, I did.
But you know, dude, like I took that to heart though, man, because like how hard is it, especially as a senior NCO, to come up and be like, "Dude, I don't know what this is." Right? Like I need help. Point me in the right direction. Like, what are you guys using so I can be successful? And that was like my first real interaction with Chris, right? Because like we didn't really know each other, and like I just immediately fell in love with him. You know what I mean? Because like he's one of my favorite people, man.
Yeah, man.
Because he's such just a humble and like servant leader that is just bar none, dude. Like I love Chris to death, and that was my first interaction with him, and where he's just like, "Dude, I don't know and I need help."
Is that true, Chris? Is that how you remember it?
Yeah, you know, I definitely was a lot more. I mean, the whole SFAB getting into that, you know, that unit. I was lost, bro. Like you have so many directions, so many different assets that you have on the table, and you know, I'm brand new, and I'm like, man, I'm in this ops NCO position first, and trying to understand what is important, right? Because everything's important. It just seems like, you know, more than you would ever look at any normal infantry unit, right? So there was just a lot of that. I would not say chaos, right? It was just like you have to understand the structure, right? And you got to know who or the individuals are in regards to just doing your job, right? And I know that can apply anywhere in any job, but like there specifically being new and then being a senior NCO as well. I mean, really, I was just newly promoted, so I was just trying to figure myself out as well, right?
So you're a newly promoted staff sergeant coming out of RTB, right?
Sergeant first class, yeah.
Okay, so
just getting in there, and then I was just okay. Hey, let's understand the dynamics of what is strategic operations, and at a very 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 like small level. I would never say strategic and knowing like all the facets that go along with that, but just kind of dipping my toe in and then trying to acknowledge the S3 and be like, hey, what does this mean?
Right.
No.
I have to be honest. I was medically retired in 2015, so I'm not even really sure what SFAB's supposed to do. I have no idea because it wasn't a thing when I was in, or if it was a thing, I wasn't aware of it because I was getting out. So, I can imagine, spending a couple of years at RTB, you being at the 4th ID and the 82nd, and now you're thrust into this stupid fucking job, right? Like that really, you're trying to make sense of it because you have no idea what it is. I don't even think the Army knows what it is, to be honest.
They don't.
Now, let's fast forward, dude. This is the interesting part. And I know a little bit more of Chris's transition story than I do of yours, Mark. So we'll probably spend more time on you, but you were medically retired like I was,
Yep.
and I think Chris was medically retired as well. So we've all got that in common, but that looks different for all of us. So first, what was it that led to your medical retirement, Mark? And second, I can probably put my finger on how you were feeling about that because you were probably a career guy just like I was, and you felt really fucking shortchanged, didn't you?
Yeah, 100%, man. So at that point, right, like, we just went and did our Columbia rotation. So we had dudes over, I think like 6 countries at that point, right? And then obviously I kind of got thrusted into the position of being the ops sergeant major. And I mean, dude, it was wild, right? Like, try go being an E7, and then telling like Katie complete first sergeants what to do. So that right there in its original state is already like super difficult. But it wasn't because none of them couldn't have stepped up and done that position, right? Like, because they could have, hands down. But I was already so tied into everything that was going on and how to run the battalion and how to run the actual jock and everything like that is really why I got flushed into that. And then I just kind of held on to it until, they figured out I was crazy and pushed me out. Which maybe that was it. Maybe that was why. But no, man, honestly, so, and truthfully, right, and this might be a different talking point at some other point. And dealing with when you actually start talking about strategic level impacts and doing those things in different foreign military sales programs and all that stuff, which is really what I was dabbling in, as well as like going down to like Lancero school and doing all that down at the same time, right? Like, we rewrote the program and safety net for Lancero during that time, right? Like, we got the first female students through Lancero school ever because of what we did. You know what I mean? Like, so, and just amazing experience, amazing things. But when you're working in that environment, you are working at a level that is already so dramatically farther ahead than what the rest of the Army even thinks about. And then actually planning and going down and briefing down at the Department of State and going in and out of the embassy and doing all that stuff, dude, it's just like it really begins to wear on you. And then outside of, you're still running your tactical threat assessment and still running teams like normal operations.
So you're just at max capacity,
dude. It 100%,
and then some.
Like, I was so burnt out by the time I got back. Like, and Chris can attest to this. He saw me. And dude, like, I was so fried by the time I was done. I started running into, anxiety attacks, man. And like, just running into those issues, right? Like, I would end up getting stuck in my shower and I couldn't get out. I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything.
So, it's funny that you say that because I did, I just released it this week, but Sean Berna did it 30 years, got out in the asymmetric warfare group as a sergeant major. And he told a story on this show when I interviewed him about standing in his shower, frozen, looking at his uniform hanging on the back of the door, thinking to himself, fuck, I have to go put this thing the fuck on. And it was the absolute last thing he wanted to do in his life at that point in time. But he also spoke to, we're soldiers and this is what we do. You don't get a choice. And I guess what I'm trying to say is it sounds like you were very much in the same spot that he was describing on this show also.
Yeah. Dude, I was so just like beyond burnt out, right? Like and at the end of the day, like we can all make excuses about shit, right? Like excuses are like assholes. We all got one. But like my personal life had really fallen apart completely. I was still in a custody battle for my son at that point, which I won, by the way. No big deal. Single dad's life matters. You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? But it hit a point where like, I was running into more and more issues. And when they start talking about like PTSD and TBI, right? Like I've got lesions and shit in my head. And I definitely jumped out of a couple airplanes throughout my career. And, you generally go feet face. Even when you're really good at PLF, and dude, like it ain't a thing. You know what I mean? Like it don't matter. You smack your head a lot, right? And I got blown up a couple times, and it is what it is, right? So like you start mixing, TBI and PTSD and just such a high stress environment, high stress job, like it really, really starts taking its toll on you. And it took me to a point of like where I was hitting certain points of it to like I couldn't function anymore. And like by the time I get back, or like the time I was getting ready to go in or do things, like, and Chris was asked, like, he's like, I'd show up like 3 hours late every once in a while. And I was like, oh yeah, what are you doing? Like, is everything good? And it's like, dude, I couldn't leave my fucking shower, man. Like the water ran cold on me. Like I couldn't get out of it. I couldn't, just do like, and it's so crazy when your mind starts playing those games with you and doing that to you and understanding like, and actually going through it. So I ended up I went and I sought help, right? Like, and this is a whole nother topic about how the Army fails us. But you know what I mean? Like I went and did it. So like one of my mentors actually grabbed me and he's like, yo, like, no, like you're going to go down and get help. Like you're not doing this anymore. Like you are losing your shit, dude. And you're going, which was actually, Mauro Manan, who he's about to retire. And he's also a Sergeant Major. And he was kind of the guy who I picked up on, and then he picked up on, and we went back and forth. But just a really, really good dude. Whenever you talk to him or meet him, though, it's just his face. It's not that he doesn't like you. So like,
he's not really mad. He's not.
Yeah, he's not around. Like, everyone's like, I think he hates me. I'm like, I love Manon. What are you guys talking about? Like, he's a fantastic person. Like, you
can't wait to meet him.
And like, he'd just be like, yeah, it's great. He's just a super like huge Dominican dude too. So he's like super intimidating and just like towers over everybody. But he's just a great person. Like him and his family are fantastic people, and he was running into a lot of the same stuff that I was going through too, and we were able to really lean on each other. And he's like, no, dude, like you're going, like you need to go get this taken care of, and you need to go talk to somebody. And I'm really grateful for him, like truthfully. So, but I ended up doing 2 full rounds of intensive outpatient therapy programs. I had to go twice to where I finally actually started to understand me and understand like my mental health journey. And you know what I mean, a year and a half later, right, like I still ain't got it figured out. Earlier this morning I was having an anxiety attack, dude. Like it happens. It's something that we have to learn to live with and learn to deal with, because it is a part of who we are now. So the MVP process for me was, I mean, dude, a shit show. So not only that, right, like it going into that, right, so I started with mental health, and they're like, okay, like what else is wrong? They wanted me to get like 6 surgeries before I got out, because once they started deep diving, dude, I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to tell you what all hurts now. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, just like, I don't know if you can pick it up with the mic with that thing. Like, I need a shoulder surgery, I need a back surgery, I need both my knees replaced, I need a hip surgery. Like, it's just all these different things, right? Like, and
and it's funny you're talking about that because it was a shoulder that put me out. I had two labrum repairs that put me out. But had my physical body not broken down, there's no way my mind was going to hold for the next 7 or 8 years, particularly, you're talking 2014, 15. I was probably more than likely going to come down on orders to go somewhere else that was probably deploying, which would have made a 5th conventional Army deployment for, at that point, I already had 5 years of combat time, and I can absolutely relate to what you're saying. I never did SFAB. I never, did any kind of special operations or whatever, but even the conventional Army guys from 2003 to 2015, I was deployed literally every other year.
Yep.
Every other year. So the op tempo was just as high, if not higher for us, because, our train ups are 11, 12 months, right? Yep. So there's no downtime for any of us. I think I had this conversation with another vet here on the show, who's trying to do some work on mandatory dwell times and like really studying like what that did to all of us. And I don't think I ever had dwell time of more than 10 months ever, which is insane, right? Like most people are mandatory a year. So it was the mental that got you. And I assume that's what kicked off your med board process.
Yep. Yeah. That's what started it. And honestly, it wasn't even truly the mental. It's the meds that they put me on off the rip. So, and I mean, we can go down that whole rabbit hole, right? Because the meds that they're putting people on now and getting them out of the Army. I left the Army with taking on 12 meds, right? Like 12, right? I don't know if you guys know what like Effexor, like venlafaxine is, but it's like one of the stronger like anti-psych meds that you can get on, and I'm still on 190 milligrams a day.
Jesus, brother.
That shit, dude. Right? So like, and then like outside of all the stuff I'm taking for TBI, right? And then they put me on 10 milligrams of Ambien, Prozac, which is a blood pressure med, as well as hydroxyzine, which is like Benadryl and steroids. And they were putting me into a coma every night just to sleep. And then when I finally ended up getting out, right, like good luck actually filling a 30-day like NARC script, you know what I mean, out of the VA, right? So I'm completely off. I just stopped taking the shit, except for the venlafaxine, just to keep me kind of, not crazy.
Well, and that one's probably one you can't just quit cold turkey
you can't
either.
Quit.
Yeah,
it's something like, now that I've been on it for this period of time, like, oh, you're only supposed to take it for a few months. Like, you guys have been on it for 2 years. Like, you kidding me?
Well, and that's a lot of. I saw all my buddies getting put on pills, and nothing against you. It just I refused, and I think that's why I spent the better part of 8 years of my life after I got out just in what I call the transition hole, just miserable. Constantly wondering, is today the day I put the gun in my mouth because I don't want to do this anymore. I felt like I was living for no reason and I couldn't figure it out. And I just knew that I didn't want the pills. And I discovered, the Sean Ryan show is where I give credit to introducing me to psychedelics and healing through plant medicine. So I want to ask you, and we can venture down this rabbit hole if you want or whatnot, but have you considered anything like that?
100%, dude. So I'm trying to go down and do the full-on psych therapy, either down in Mexico or Peru. So that is 100% something I'm looking at getting into, and then outside of just like microdose and everything like that, to figure out how to find that balance.
Yeah, man. Because I'll tell you, Chris can attest to this because I saw Chris last June, and Chris will tell you I weighed 311 pounds at my heaviest when he saw me. I was in a really bad way. I thought I was hiding it well. I don't necessarily know that I was hiding it that well. I mean, I still had a great time at the wedding with you and Chris and Kyle and a trip down memory lane there, but I was. And then shortly after that, I went to Peru a month later. Actually, at the end of that month, I went to Peru to do my ayahuasca journey. And I don't know, I'll let Chris speak to that. Like, how much change have you seen in me since I did that?
I mean, man, look at you, dude.
Yeah.
It is impressive, honestly, what you're doing, Adam, and like your outlook. You were never a negative person. You were always in the middle, right? And I mean that in the most respectful way, because you just had this objectivity of how you thought, right? Now there is this other, peering venture of like, you're just excited, man. Right.
Yeah.
So, and I see that every day and what you post, what you do, and it's truly inspiring. Right. And sure, say what you want about, things of holistic, right, nature. But man, you are a great, testament to what it can do and how people can move forward. Right.
Yeah, man. No, I appreciate that, dude. So Mark, like I said, we're just like really getting to know one another, and I've got a relationship with Chris. So I just wanted to present it to you and see if you had considered it. And, it's had such a profound impact on me. I spent a lot of money on a course to get certified as a psychedelic integration and addiction recovery coach so that I could give back to Heroic Hearts and help more veterans do that. I'm so grateful that I got the opportunity to do that with Heroic Hearts, because it's unlocked a portion of me I didn't know existed. And I'm a huge advocate for it, but I'm also a huge advocate of they're not the be all end all. And there's still a ton of fucking work that you have to do on yourself
100%.
in conjunction with that, which is the integration part, right? And it's learning the different tools and techniques in mindfulness, meditation, yoga, breath work, just overall learning how to be still, present, and sit with yourself and look inside of yourself to do the actual work. So I really do hope that you come off of those pills relatively soon, and I'm going to reach out to some people in the space and see if we can't get you a journey going here way sooner than maybe you even think it's coming.
Dude, I'm about it, brother, because I'll tell you what, I know several people that have gone to go do it. And people from my past that know my traumas and were there with me. And they're like, brother, like, we went and it has changed my life.
Yeah, man.
I just have a buddy, and we can talk about him here in a bit. But he went about a month ago now. He just got back, and him and I had talked prior to him going, and then we talked when he got back, and he's like, Mark, go. So he went to the one in Mexico. And he was like, look, dude, I'm going to be real with you. It's protected by the cartel. You're going to be sketched out for a little bit. It's okay. All right? Like, they're there. It's fine. You know what I mean? Like, they're watching out for our backs too. And anybody that knows that too, right? And if you've ever worked in that AO, like, you understand what the cartel really is and what they are. But, it's like these dudes, they understand what this is, and it's doing the right things and actually truly helping people. And we can dive more into that too. If you guys want to run down the 501c route, boys, like,
we'll talk about that in a minute. I want to talk about Chris.
Plan one for me as well. Just me and Mark will do a budget trip down there.
Well, actually, honestly, what I'd like to do is find a way that we could all three go do it together, because when I don't know, I saw it firsthand with my cohort when I went to Peru. If you guys have listened to the show, Rich was my first guest on here. He was also with me on the Peru trip, and I love that man very dearly. He's a really awesome person, and he's a guiding light kind of, and inspires me in my life to this day. But he did it with a buddy of his that he had deployed with, and the profound effects that I think that had in such that like intimate, because they shared a room together, they laid pretty close to each other in the ceremonies at night, and they generally had each other to talk to, versus like for me, everybody was a stranger. And I'm not saying that I love my cohort dearly. I still keep in touch with 90% of them who still are active in the Signal chat or whatever, but I do think there's a ton of value in doing it with people that you're close to and that because I don't know, that's just the way the medicine works, I think. But I want to talk about your transition, Chris, because whether you know it or not, man, I think a large part of why I'm doing this is because of some of the trials and tribulations you've been through, and actually give you credit for this show already accomplishing its mission before it was ever released. Because that day that you called me and said that you had looked at my LinkedIn profile and you said I'd always been a mentor to you in the Army, and you needed to find another mentor outside of the Army because you were leaving the VA inpatient treatment facility because you had tried to kill yourself. Dude, that was a tough pill to swallow, brother.
Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, man, if this is as far as this show ever goes, knowing that it had a part in saving your life means the world to me, brother.
So thanks. And transition piece was very, it was a struggle, like for most. And the thing is, like with my military career, it wasn't necessarily hard, right? I don't know if in a public context is necessary in that, right? And for me, like I was very, I was given so much opportunity, so much things were just there for me, right? The people, the jobs, like the schools, whatever. And so leaving that and leaving a community where I was, very blessed to have, I flipped. I flipped. Like I had so much hate in my heart. I was greedy. I was looking at excuses. I was deflecting, man. I was angry with my position, right? And there was no need for that. It was because I was selfish. Bottom line, selfish. Um, and that, right, that that kind of toxicity stays with you, and it did, and it was taking over a good chunk of my mental state. First off, it's in what started off the, medical retirement or just the medical chapter was my heart condition, right? And like, man, I got a big heart. Look at me. I'm smiling all the time. Like I love everybody. Everybody's cool. Like, everything is awesome, right? That could be my theme song when I was in the Army.
It
like,
really could. That smile right there was constantly on that man's face, right? Like always. Never did it ever. You could be in the middle of the suck in the field, wet, tired, sweaty, and this dude's teeth just mile away. You're seeing him in the dark. He's always smiling. That's Chris.
Yeah. And and then it's like that, the internal fire, man, just distinguished, right? Like I gave in to what was being told as far as my examinations, right? With my heart condition, it was aortic root dilation, right? We don't get crazy specific, but, and that was something that no one wanted to, I say no one, it was just a complication that honestly leaders within the organization, it was hard for them to, support me and help me out with, right? I had, at that point I was really resentful, right? And again, like I said, that cancer, right, within myself, because I'm not doing that type of work internally, right? It just consumed me. So I got out and I did medically retire, right? And then I have this, burden already of what, whether it was that I didn't finish what I was supposed to do, right? I didn't reach the finish line. I just stopped short and I let everybody down. Like that was one thing. And then, I just couldn't come to terms with that. So it was easy for me, getting out. It was like, well, it's their fault. I mean, that's the truth of it, man. And it wasn't like I said, I didn't go crazy combat time, or I wasn't like, jumping out of every single airplane. I did really great things. I had some really great people that I served with. But at that point, whenever I did leave and I found out a lot about my condition, and it was a lot of mental, like a lot of very big mental stability I just could not cope with. Like I just couldn't find the balance in my life, and looking at individuals and just hating them for no reason, right? And it got worse, right? And remember, it got worse as we looked at. Well, I was looking internally, like, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? Like, maybe I have these, dreams of being a truck driver. I don't know, man. I went to CDL school. Like, I did some crazy stuff, man. I was in a higher.
You called me because you wanted to be a pilot, right?
Pilot. Yeah, like I just
this time last year, we were having conversations about what you need to do to get a medical, because I had walked through that process, and you had talked to another guy we served with who used me as a resource to get his medical, to get his license to fly, and then I saw you at the wedding, and that was the last I heard from you until you called me that day, right?
Yeah, man. And so that was, I ended up taking medication, right? During that time frame, I was going through separation. It was just a difficult time frame, right? After I saw you, like just things hit the fan, right? And again, it was coming from that part. I just didn't close out of my life, like just the resentment and all that hate, man. And again, I could be chipper all day and smile, but man, there's just so much within me, right, that I just didn't want everybody to see. And obviously, I shown it in different ways, right, by my actions, my behavior. And I finally was able to talk to a therapist and get involved with a nonprofit organization here. And, you know, is because I truly wanted to, you know, kill myself, you know, for what though? Like it was this need because I could not face my own, whether it's decisions, whether it's just that closing off of the Army, or if it was letting somebody down, like this ghost of like, who am I letting down? Like, I just couldn't come to terms with that. But here's the funny thing, Adam, like for me, and I talked to, and my girlfriend about this, it's truly some of that. It's a compound of my childhood.
Yes, sir.
I did not ever realize the rebound of all that childhood trauma stacked, right, whenever I let go of that Army uniform, right?
Yep.
And I'm not saying my life or childhood was any harder than anyone else's, right? But I'm saying, like, because of how fast paced, you know, I lived in when I first joined the military, and then not having that kind of, like I said, balance, whatever you want to call it. You know, I come out of the military structure, and it's boom, I'm alone. And when I'm alone, it's terrifying.
It's terrifying. And, you know, I think, Mark, you might know this too, or whatever, but what the ayahuasca journey taught me was I wasn't dealing with the military shit. It had nothing to do with that. It had everything to do with shit that I didn't even know from my childhood and the way I was raised, in the environments that I was raised in, and how I was treated growing up. And I think, I don't know, we as adolescents have this innate ability to just block chunks of our lives out of our minds. And I think the Army, or the military in general, and losing the purpose and the identity, and really, because that's what the military is good at. They prey upon people from situations like all of us probably grew up in, or whatever, that we don't realize. We're just drawn to it, and we're easily moldable and brainwashed essentially into doing what we do as infantrymen, right? Like mission first, always, always, always. Doesn't fucking matter. It's always the mission first. And you will be the best goddamn infantry soldier, whatever position it is that you hold at the time. And that's what's expected of you. And then you lose that. And I think that perpetuates all of that identity issue, because you really don't know from your childhood who you're supposed to be, because of external influences shaping your personality that you don't even realize are working on you. And then the Army perpetuates that, because you have to be a certain way to survive in the infantry, right? Like we have all seen those soldiers come into the infantry, and you know from day one that they're not going to make it, and sure as shit 6 months later you're kicking them out of the Army because they just can't hack it. And I do think that's what the ayahuasca showed me, was I didn't need to deal with the shit that I was trained to do. That's why it was a job. It was what I was trained to do. I don't feel any remorse about it. It was either me or them, right? Like genuinely, I think what was harder for me to deal with is seeing American soldiers hurt and wounded, and dealing with that. That's more traumatic than taking enemy lives or whatever. But genuinely, what I had to deal with was, my mom was not the greatest person to me, and I didn't grow up in a home that showed you what love really looks like. And I was bullied relentlessly because I wear glasses, right? Like I was born in the 80s, so growing up in the 90s, glasses were forbidden. You don't wear glasses. You're an outcast if you wear glasses. And to this day, it still kind of affects me, because deep down, I see people who put glasses on as some kind of like stylish, like, part of their outfit, and they don't even fucking need them. And it's the very same people who were picking on me when I was a kid, because I had to wear them so I could see. So, I get where you guys are coming from on that. And, man, I really hope that we can put something together to really, show you the cheat code to get through all of that shit.
So, and I think that's cool too, man. Like, and a lot of people don't actually understand like the science that comes behind it and the actual thing, right? Because I'm at the end of the day, guys, I'm a nerd. Like I tell Chris all the time, he's like, "You're not a nerd, you're beautiful," you know what I mean? Because Chris and I are always trying to build each other up. I used to tell him like I was super complimenting him. Jesus, is that even English? I was super complimenting him this morning. I'm like, God, dude, like, you were just such a handsome man, Chris. You know what I mean? Like, just right after that was our first conversation this morning. I'm like, if I were into dudes, like, you would be my number one. Like, that's a fact. Don't tell Virginia. Don't let her see this. She's gonna beat me up. Right? Like Jenny's gonna whoop my ass. So, but yeah, no, man, like, but people don't really understand that stuff too, and they don't understand what a mental health journey is, or understanding how to truly unlock like neural pathways that we have blocked off for so long. And depending on, and honestly, like I get it, right? Like we generally probably all come from the same background, the same types of childhoods, and those different things, right? Because it does take a certain person to say that this is what I want to do. And I guess like throughout my mental health journey, one of the reasons I did join the Army, right? And you asked me this earlier, right? And I deflected it, and I caught myself in it, right? You caught me. All right, so let's be real about it. Is I wanted friends, right? Like I wanted people that I could count on, and do that. And I'll be honest with you guys, though, I found that, and then I had it ripped away from me in the Army. And I had that destroyed, and it now has given me such deep rooted trust issues that has absolutely, it's completely changed and ruined my life, but yet made my life incredibly better at the same point. But we want to go down the trust issue lane, right? Like my best friend got my wife pregnant that I went on multiple deployments with. You know what I mean? And you know what, dude, like at the end of the day, like it is what it is. But, and I can't say I was a saint or a good husband or anything by those means either, right? Like, and that ain't true. And we got to accept our actions as realities too. But that hurt me so badly, like beyond recognition. And it wasn't even as much of like the her as the problem, but as like him. And
the betrayal. It's the betrayal.
Just, it was so deep rooted to me. And it destroyed me, man. I'll be honest. And it's destroyed every relationship I've been in up to this point. It's destroyed everything from it. Because I just have such deep rooted trust issues, and to include with my brothers in the military. And you can ask Chris this too, right? Like when we were in the Army, I'd be like, we're not fucking friends. Like, I know, and Chris laughs, right? Because I've said it to him. Like, and like my boy Steven Spake, right? Like he's a great dude. And throughout the entire Army, he's like, dude, I can't wait for both of us to finally get out and we can be friends. And I'm just like, dude, maybe then, you know what I mean? But like, but I was so jaded and broken from that. And I realized through that, like that was a lot of the issue that I had is trust. And finding that. And then when you actually do find people, and I think this is kind of an easy way to kind of transition some other stuff with us too, and work this into what we're doing and why, is like Chris reached out to me, and it was a fluke he called me. Like, why did you even call me? Like,
I really wanted to congratulate you, Mark. It's the same, at that point I was like, man, I just want to be better in relationships. I don't know how to start. And I'm like, man, Mark Messina, I wonder if this dude's actually going to answer the phone.
So he did. It was like midnight, 1:00, like East Coast time, right? And I'm like, wow, fucking Chris Ingram. And actually, he came in up as my phone. It was like Sergeant First Class Ingram too. Like that's how long it was ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm like,
it's been a while, right?
Is this dude calling me for? So I'm like, yo, what's up, dude? Right, and we just started talking, man, and just downloading into each other, just kind of where we were. And I don't know, man, like I'd always liked Chris because he was upfront. He was an honest dude. Like we had worked together a few times and done a couple different things. Like we went and did our Miami trip together. We went and did a couple other stuff. Yeah, you're welcome. he wasn't supposed to go on that. I like kind of in to come with us. It's great. But you know what I mean? Like we were able to do certain things and we knew each other, but Chris and I didn't know each other well. You know what I mean? Even at that point that he had called me, you know what I'm saying? Like Chris and I didn't know each other well. Like we had worked together, we had done some stuff, but like I wouldn't have called him my friend. You know what I'm saying? No offense, Chris, but that's just how I am.
No.
Right? Like, but now like Chris and I talk almost every day. We were actually just bitching this morning that we've been so busy that like we haven't been talking multiple times a day. And I'm like, dude, like I miss you. Like this is weird. Like I haven't talked to you in like 2 days. Like you're out like running around doing all this crazy shit. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know, like once you find your people again and you actually start kind of building up that tribe and people that you know you can lean on and trust and do that, like, and you know what I mean? Like we can go back and forth on it, right? Like I'll give Chris half of whatever I got. I don't give a fuck. Right? Like we had that conversation the other day and he tries to like hide his fucking stuff from me. You know what I mean? And I'm just like stop it. Like, because that's just like when you find those people and you build those teams, like it is hands down just the most important thing you can have. And that is why I started Grey Group.
Yeah, so let's talk about this. So you mentioned that entrepreneurship chose you, and I very much believe for veterans, for a lot of reasons, that the path back to purpose is entrepreneurship. I believe that we develop high leverage skills that apply to business, which give us basically a huge leg up. We automatically command a certain kind of power, immediate power with people that we speak to, which gets us, in the door, which definitely helps in business. But, also it's a never ending mission that we control. Right. So like with your issues, Mark, with the trust issues, you don't ever have to put that on somebody else. It's the buck stops with you at that point. Yep. And so how do you feel that entrepreneurship chose you, and how did that lead to Grey Group getting started?
Yeah, man, it's just, so I got out of the Army and I had this really great idea that I was going to go paint motorcycles, and just smoke weed. That was actually my plan. Turns out I don't really like smoking weed. It's not that great. I mean, like it's cool, sure, but like
I disagree with you. I love weed.
I mean, it's just like all right, cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it helps me sleep. You know what I mean? But like, it's just kind of one of those things where like, it's not as cool as it used to be, I guess, for me.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And I'm just like, so I was painting, I was doing all this stuff, and like we were just kind of going at it, and then a business opportunity came in because somebody came out and asked me for help, man. So like my business partner came in and he's like, hey man, I've got this going on. This is what's been happening. Like I'm in a hole, I'm in a rut. I need help. And I'm like, okay, man, like, let me see. Because he'd been talking to me about this for 2-3 years and I've been blowing him off because I didn't want to do it. Like I had no desire to be in this industry at all. Truthfully, like I didn't want to do it anymore. I'm like, dude, I'm done with this. Like I'm walking away. I'm going to go live my life the way I want to. And I don't want to talk about the same old shit over and over. But when somebody comes and asks you for help and they actually sit there and put that out, just like, you know what I mean? I said with Chris earlier, like if one of your people come to you and are like, hey man, like I need help. I don't know. I guess I just feel like I have an inherent responsibility to take that on because that's just who I am as a person. Like super good at helping other people, not great at helping myself. Right. And like that's just kind of one of those things, you know what I mean? And he hit me with it. I'm like, okay, cool. Like your business is doing this, but you really suck at this, right? Like we need to completely change these, and fix a lot of this stuff. So we liquidated it, completely liquidated what he had, and I gave him a percentage for some of the internal stuff that he had and brought over with property, and just went and have been sitting here funding all this stuff out of my own pocket and figuring that out, and coming out with it and just grinding, man, like just straight grinding on
that's what it is.
These products out. But I had to take a hard look. And if you look at our logo, right, and you actually look at the colored logo of it, so and there's a lot of symbolism and a lot of very like the words in it have meaning, right? So I'm a very analytical and overthinker, right? As we all probably know.
I overthink and I deep dive things, and I put multiple meanings. I don't ever do like one thing for only one reason. I think it's a waste of time, truthfully. So anything that I do has for multiple reasons, and if I'm going to create a product, there are multiple reasons I'm going to get a piece of equipment. There are multiple reasons that I'm going to do this to create a fully, vertically integrated system. Just because I'm very systems based and I'm an overthinker. But if you look at the actual like structure for Grey Group and the logo that we have, it's obviously the G, you know what I mean? And you can see it here. It's got the castle out top, and it holds true to what it is. And then it's got a dark star and a light star on either side of it. And understanding that and understanding like what that gray man and gray zone truly does and goes forth with it, right? And obviously I spent a lot of time on good old Bragg or Liberty, whatever the fuck they want to call it now. You know what I mean? But I had the opportunity to go to quite a few schools over there, because they're all there, right? So the entire special operations training course is all there. So you know what I mean? Like I had a lot of great opportunities to go and get a lot of, military education and do those different things that most don't, just being in, you know what I mean? Like out of the 82nd, which is one of the major benefits the 82nd has because it's geolocated. But
where do you get your business acumen?
Say that one more time.
Where do you get your business acumen, your knowledge of how to run a business? Like you said, your buddy asked you for help.
Yep.
You said, we need to change all of this, liquidated. You gave him a percentage and now you're grinding this out. So how did you learn all of that? Did you learn on your own? Did you rely on, your expertise in helping set up the SFAB? Like, did that play a big part in how you integrate all the things that you do with Grey Group?
Yeah. So no doubt about that. So one is good mentors. So I have mentors, like obviously like I have some phenomenal military mentors. Like Sean Morgan. If you don't have him on your podcast soon, we'll be yelling at him. So he's a command sergeant major. He just retired. Out of, Hood or Cavavos. It's Cavavos now. I don't know. He just retired out of
Hood. We'll just call them the names that we know them by.
Yeah, that makes sense, dude. Look, I'm trying to be better. All right. But yeah,
there's just a part of me that's always going to call it Benning. I'm never going to call it Fort Moore, right? Like a huge transition point in my life happened on Honor Hill at Fort Benning, Georgia, and that's never going to be erased from my memory.
Yeah, I know. Like, whatever, woke society. But so, I am who I am, right? I ain't changing what I want.
Sir. Yes, sir.
You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. I get yelled at about that quite a bit, actually. I really suck at social media because I get shadow banned immediately too. Whatever. So, but I don't know, man. Like it's like the actual mentors that I've had and the people that I've gone through and worked with have always been around me. And I don't know why, like I always get along with the crazy ones. Right. Like, and I kind of attribute that and people understand too. And people that actually carry it know. But it's people that carry darkness. And I talk about that a lot, and I talk about the mental health stuff a lot and do that. Obviously I'm really tied into the 501c stuff as well, but it's the folks that actually carry darkness and understand what I mean by that too. And it took me a long time to figure out how to control that and how to actually utilize that into, like channeling it and really using that darkness to get shit done.
Right.
And honestly, a lot of it was based around and y'all are going to hate me for this one. You ready? A lot of this company was based around because I was pissed. Like I was mad. Right. So the biggest thing that I come at with the company itself too is, we need to challenge the industry and just be better. Right? Like I say that shit over and over and over and over again. And it's because like I'm tired of nobody being innovative anymore. Like when's the last update to a carrier system been put out? When has it?
Right.
15, 20 years? There's been no innovation to it at all. There's been no build up to fixing problems, like basic shit, dude. What's the worst thing that you had to carry when you're an infantryman?
40 mil.
God, man, I can think of a lot.
I mean, yeah,
a
right.
lot of
you guys are
you know,
dude. You don't even know what carrying shit.
Bullshit, dude. I deployed the first time I deployed with the old school fucking flak vest, bro, and an LCE.
Yeah, I had one too.
So believe me, I know what the fuck,
like,
but I wanna ask Chris. Chris, did you ever, like, as long as I've known you, you've never really expressed any interest in entrepreneurship or anything like that. So how does this feel for you, like being a part of Grey Group and being brought in to help build this company and do this? Like, I think you might even be the perfect person that I've had on this show to talk about that path back to purpose. Like, I think maybe from day one you felt like a greater sense of service now that you're in this role as, head of West Coast distribution for Grey Group Tactical. So talk to us about how you're feeling about being an entrepreneur, basically.
I mean, I don't know about that, man. I'm simple, and why I say that is because I just see a need, right? And I do understand the skills I have, and they're not all great, but I want to help, right? And that's where, I just kind of follow through within that kind of servitude. I don't have the creative mind, and I leave that luckily to Mark and to Jay, right? And those that are there in the manufacturing facility. So like whenever I think of like entrepreneurship, like it's terrifying for me. I'll be honest with you. But what is cool, it is very enlightening in regards to just, you can be creative and you can say you can follow anything in any dream you want, right? If you just are okay with risk, right? And maybe part of that is just harnessing some sort of emotion towards a specific industry, right? Maybe it's an awakening, right? Or like I just said, the enlightenment. But, it is very nice to be around, individuals like yourself. And maybe I'm just an opportunist. I don't want to say a bad opportunist, but you guys help me with that to then give me the confidence to look at, maybe I can do things myself, right? If that makes sense. Like, so I don't know.
Well, and I think speaking to that, you say you're not the creative type, but to build a business, first of all, it takes more than one person, right? So while Mark has the creative side of that covered, what Mark may be lacking in is like your ability to connect with people. So I know you to be a connector, Chris, because I know you well, right? Yeah. And I myself I'm a connector on my way to being a super connector, right? That's why I have this podcast. That's why it's so much fun for me, because I just get to talk to people all day, every day. It's great, right? And so that is your role, and that's what it means for you to take up and step into this role of entrepreneurship as a connector, building those relationships for Grey Group to get their shit to people on the West Coast, right? And eventually that, I assume, and maybe way off base, but I assume eventually that'll be head of all United States distribution. And right, like the sky's the limit for you in that. And so that is your role in entrepreneurship. And I would challenge you to embrace that, brother, because there's a reason Mark brought you on. And I think I probably knew it even before you knew it.
Yeah. I definitely will take that on. Like I said, sometimes I do feel a little reserved. So, but it is
that's
nice
also
to have
part of business, dude.
What's that? Sorry.
That's part of business. That feeling that you're feeling. Mark probably feels it every day. He's probably like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm just going to keep doing shit, and whatever works, and whatever doesn't work, we fucking pivot away from. And I assume, Chris, you're doing the same thing. You may not even realize that that's what you're doing. Right? Like, well, that didn't fucking work. Let me try a different approach, right? And that's largely what building a business is. It's the same thing I feel every day doing this. It's like, are people even listening to this shit? I don't fucking know, but I'm going to keep putting episodes out, and I'm going to do this until I can't do it anymore. And by law of large numbers, it will succeed as long as I don't quit. Yeah. I think that's like the most important thing to like lean in when you're feeling that shitty feeling, like I'm lost. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Just remember, just keep doing it. And eventually something will happen that will inform the next step, or give you the next point that you need to go to, or whatever. And that's just really kind of how it works.
Yeah,
definitely, dude.
So Mark, you were talking about nobody has been innovative in the space for more than 2 decades, which is, I mean, that's a long fucking time. Yep. So how is Grey Group different? And this is, honestly, for me, this is a large reason like why I wanted to see if you would be willing to partner, even though I don't really have anything to offer you other than like, just, I'm going to promote the shit out of your stuff. I'm wearing the X Fit. You're wearing the X Fit. This thing, I wear it every morning. What's that?
This is a Custom Plus right here.
The Custom Plus, my bad.
Plus, baby.
But I love this thing so much, dude. And I just have some shitty Amazon flat straight plates in it, for exercise in the morning. I wear it. You see my videos on LinkedIn 99.9% of the time. I wear this thing every morning. And it truly is one of the better plate carriers I've ever worn. I've never actually worn one for exercise other than like the Army making us put our shit on and go on rucks or runs or whatever. But like this thing really genuinely is like, I've been talking to everybody trying to get them to go to your website and buy one if they really want to use one to exercise. So talk about like, what are you doing to innovate? And I'm really excited for you to talk about the piece that we talked about in our initial phone call.
Yep. So we're doing a lot, man, honestly. So originally when it all kind of started, we started just basing it around like durability, washability, and comfortability. All right. And that's what we wrote on the board. That's what you see on our website. That's what you hear me talk about all the time. Because those are the three kind of main focal points that we went after. And let's be clear, right? Like I don't know jack and shit about sewing. You know what I mean? Like I own a bunch of sewing machines there in back. Not allowed to touch them. My seamstresses will stab me. It's a fact, dude. Like, did you touch my sewing machine? I'm like, no. Of course I didn't touch. Like, all right, I won't do it again. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? It's the same thing with like social too, right? Like I'm not good at it, man. It's not my strong suit. But if we can look at it from a team building aspect and building a business based around those three functions of things that we wanted to go after, and then how do we build it around capabilities to do multiple products under those functions? So when it comes to like durability, right? We use material that most people don't. It's expensive as shit, to be honest with y'all. The MLQs kill me. Like one roll, because and you have like a minimum amount you're allowed to purchase. If we want to do multiple color schemes, if we want to do different things, right? Each roll has an MLQ to it, which is 50 yards, right? That roll is almost 2K, right? So we offer a lot of colors, you know what I mean? And everybody's like, oh, can I get this color right away? I'm like, no, dude, you got to wait, because in order for me to do that, I have to buy this much, right? And I can't.
Right. And for everybody listening who doesn't know what MOQ is, it's minimum order quantity. Yeah. And it's pretty typical in the wholesale industry when you're creating products like this. You have to order a minimum amount before they'll even ship anything to you. If you're trying to create merch for your business, it's the one thing that you're going to run into right up front. I've been trying to put my brand on everything so I can send shit to guests and all that. And I just don't have the money to do it right now because it is expensive.
I run 2 businesses, and you just let me know what you need and I'll hook you up, bro. So, right. Like, so obviously I run Grey Group Tactical. I also run Just Inc., which is actually a brand merchandising company. And I can score you away at them. So I got to know why you didn't reach out sooner.
Well, because I already feel guilty enough. Like you sent me this wonderful thing,
and we'll drop ship right out of here for you too. You don't even got to worry about it, and we'll get you totally squared away, dude. And we'll jazz up all your stuff. I got a couple graphic designers that can go in and church up all your shit, and it'll look great. Right, like that's building the right teams out. And again, right, so we looked at it from those 3 things that we wanted to get done. Right. And change in the industry. And that was just up front, right? There's a lot more to it now. But this was just kind of the upfront changes. And we use really high end material, right? Like the size of our vests are Lululemon material, man. They're the same breakdown. Right. Like the biggest complaint we get out of, some of our competitors, right? We won't name drop certain competitors. But y'all know what I used to wear if you know me. So I'm just tired of like losing my nipples in them, man. Because that, like, dude, like if you look at my plate carrier, right, like now, like it doesn't bounce on me. It sits where it's supposed to be. It snugs my body and it holds where it is, and then like right out the box. So, and yours is an X Fit, right? But if you look at mine, you know what I'm saying, you can see the straps in it, like Welcome to America, right? But I can throw in 9 magazines off the rip on this thing, right? Or tourniquets or radios or anything like that go with it, but yet keeping to a simple and slim design. So that durability aspect here is huge. Like I've got this one right here, right, which I've been rocking now for a while. All right, and it still looks brand new, dude. Like, and that's our assaulter line. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes to that durability aspect, like it has got to last. And then how do we come up with, you know, our patent lawyer loves me or hates me, I'm not sure yet. Just because like we've changed it a lot. We're in version 9 right now. So,
hey, test,
dude, I mean,
right?
and that's exactly it. But I make our testing go out, and like our end users are testing this for us too. So like in anatomy, look inside of your vest, and you're gonna see all the stitching in there is red. And I know you see it because you know exactly what I'm talking about. That is our QA/QC process coming out of here. Like, how do we make this stupid simple? Right? You've got a black vest. If I see red thread coming through it and red stitching in the seams, guess what? It's fucked up. Your seam allowances don't match, meaning that vest is going to rip. And that's how we know here. All right. If it's still within your 1-year warranty and you start seeing seams in it, right? Like, one, I want you to send it back to me because I'm going to replace it because I have a fucking warranty. I want to completely replace it with a brand new vest, and you'll get whatever upgraded model that we've seen. But I want to know what plates you were wearing in it, right? And like what you're doing with it. And then I want to look at it because I want to see where it ripped and like where we were having those issues because we can fix that. Again, like if we're not continuing to innovate as a company, we're failing as an industry leader. And that's not what we do as leaders. We don't do that shit. This isn't to turn around and make a profit. This isn't to sit there and be like, all right, cool, I made it, it works, right? Like, fucking look at me, you know what I mean? Like, I got a carrier too, right? Fuck that. I'm not doing it, right? Like, I want to continually innovate a company that is going to continue to make those changes and put out better, viable products.
And that's what's going to make you stand apart from all of your competition in the end. That and the next piece of this, which I'm super excited for you to talk about. So take it away, dude.
So, all right. So then washability, right? So you can machine wash these carriers too. That's something that nobody else can do, right? Like, and at the end of the day, like mama matters, and anytime you put your carrier in your vehicle or in your house or stuff like that, like I don't know how many times you guys had to get stripped down before you went inside, coming back from anything, and you're stripped down ass naked in the garage and had to walk through the house naked and all the kids are laughing at you and making fun of you, and then you got to go in there and to go take a shower and stuff. Maybe that didn't happen to you, Chris, right? But it happened to me. All right, I had a rough marriage. Okay, but so you know what I mean, like that. It's a thing. But like machine washability. So like this carrier that I showed you, that's got 63 washes on it. And we've got another one that's got over 600. So like the big kind of outlet and push that we're doing is to help out obviously in the gyms as well too, that we're doing a gym outreach program. And we're giving, 25, 30 carriers to these gyms. And then when they do need these weighted carriers and we do these different things, they can sit there and wash them and then just rent them out for like $5, dude. Like, here's your carrier. You know what I mean? And then we're also getting brand recognition. Like, damn, this is comfortable as fuck. Like, this ain't what I normally would wear. They're like, yeah, boys, welcome to the Thunderdome. You know what I mean? Like, this is what real looks like. But you know, I mean, like that's it. And then like the comfortability aspect too. We make carriers that fit women, right? So
bingo.
Like
nobody else is doing that, right?
Nobody else.
And I said this to you on our first phone call. Yeah.
Like nobody has a carrier. That's why I waited for the last thing. You know what I mean? We'll get y'all hyped up. But like nobody's doing it. And they don't fit women, right? And it comes down to where does the load sit in your traps, right? And then how do women's bodies work, right? They're fucking different than ours, dude. I don't care how, we want to be all whatever woke and all this other bullshit. Cool. Like I don't give a fuck. But our body types are different. If we're going to make different cuts in clothing, why aren't we making different cuts in carriers? Right? It's super simple, dude. I take a 5-inch MEC, which is the Molly Elastic cummerbunds on the side. I drop it to a 3. If you're above a C cup, you're wearing a 3. All right? If you're a B and below, well, our bodies aren't that different. All right? You can wear a 5-inch. So, sorry. But I mean, like, dude, like that's the truth, though. We need to take into account for those things. And then you can adjust more here so that carrier sits out and rides and sits right and correctly for you in order to get that stuff done, right? And then as well too, it's hugging and it's tight to your body. So you're not going to get that chin up into your plate up into your chin when you're out there doing your CrossFit workouts or you're just doing walking or doing whatever.
When I can attest to that with the XFit, because the little bit of running
Yep.
that I do and some of the burpee stuff or whatever, this thing, it bounces a little bit, but it doesn't. And that's largely user. Yeah. Well, it's largely user error because I just don't want it so tight around my midsection. But I know if I would cinch that up, it would sit right where it's supposed to.
Yeah. If you bring it up a little bit too. So if you tighten it up, so you see where my plate line's at, this is really where you want to have it. Yours is sitting low. That's why you're getting your bounce. But yeah, man, that is one thing that I need to start doing is actually putting out kind of tutorials of how to put these things together. Because it is a little bit different, right? Like we don't do all the fancy bullshit with Cobra buckles up here and all that other shit. I
thought it was stupid simple. I was really like, when it came in the envelope, I was like, what the fuck is this? And then I pulled it out and I was like, oh, okay, well I could figure this out. And it was really simple. I was like, oh, this is really cool.
But again too, I understand, we're marketing to people that have never worn a carrier before. Right. So like you come from background, you understand how to put them together. You've done that multiple times.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. Some of these women that are just getting into this and just being undervalued, not supported by the industry, they've never done this before. They've never touched one of these. They just want one because they want to be and get into that market. They want to start their fitness journey with it. They want to start doing, getting into the shooting world and doing TAC games and doing all this stuff. And it's awesome, right? Because I get a part to do it, right? And I get it. You know what I mean? I'm a tattooed white trash dude. I understand. You know what I mean? I know what I look like. It's fine. So, but getting them into there, dude, it's so rewarding. Honestly, and I get to talk to all these affiliates and I get to talk to all these women and do this. And I'm so excited to start getting out to some of these events too. And just seeing it with them and looking at the difference. And Chris can attest to that shit too, because he went out to the last tactical games and he was watching all these dudes bounce around.
I was going to say,
you can if you want. But there are certain companies out there that might just be, numbers and such, that make really, really shitty gear. And, he was out there watching. He's like, dude, you're wearing $200 Hokas. You're wearing $70 compression socks. And you're wearing all this crazy gear. You have $500-$600 of athletic gear on and a $35 Amazon carrier. You know what I mean? And he knows exactly what I'm talking about because he came back pissed from that event. It's
talk about that, Chris. Talk about the events that you're putting on. I know you just did one last weekend, right, in Boise?
So the most recent one was definitely the tactical games, right? And what Mark was talking about with the overall,
the gear dose.
Yeah, just the equipment alone, and you wonder if are they being educated, right? I think that's what Mark and I always talk about. Are they being educated on the product that they have? Because I think that's just something that we just go off word of mouth by Joe or our friend, right? Just okay, cool, you wear that, I wear that, or I look at the higher competitors and they market it better, but and that's what is frustrating to me. And whenever I'm seeing this and something that is so uncomfortable, then why not just give other companies a chance? And then we should be educating them on why it is so different. And I would, to talk about the tactical games though, I was impressed by every single competitor out there and just how much it takes. And I'm just so familiar with those squad competitions that we do at the range, but like I said, we just came back frustrated with the overall just the equipment alone, and we could be doing better as an industry to making sure hey, if you did or if you have the know-how, why not provide that knowledge, right?
And I think to speak to that a little bit too, what's frustrating about that is if you're wearing uncomfortable gear, it makes you not want to participate in the events that are going on. It ruins the experience for you, right? And we could use, I don't know, competition shooting as an example of that. If you're using the wrong fucking holster and you're playing 3-gun or something like that, right? That's going to be the difference in you having a good experience and a horrible fucking experience and really embarrassing yourself on the range. So, I think you guys are right on track with what you're doing. And I'm so, how well have you released female cut carriers?
Oh yeah, man.
Thus far?
One of the first things that we started cranking out, honestly. Obviously, we make carriers for men too. You know what I mean? Like, cool story, bro. Like, everybody does. You know what I mean? But like, how are we going to be different? Is like, yeah, we've been pumping those out. I got a partnership right now with Predator Armor. They are doing true 8x10 plates that'll fit better for women. They're doing them in everything that they do for their plates. So all the way down from, you know, their soft armor all the way up to their level 4s. And working with those dudes, like, they're awesome people. Like the Christian brothers are just, they're kind of the shit. I was just on the phone with them earlier today, talking about doing bigger and better things. You know what I mean? More to follow. But like, it's just
what's the feedback that you're getting from women?
Dude, they fucking love it, man. Like, they love it. They're like, this is so much different. It is so much more comfortable. And getting out there. So we're getting out to a couple of the bigger like fitness things, going out west. Like, I've got one over here. I'm going to War Hippies. I don't know, it's out here. But I'm going down there with like a bunch of the Draco boys and doing all that stuff, right? And plugging those dudes in and getting out there. So, and to just get out there and show some of the vests off. And I'm going to roll out there like this.
Yeah.
So, like, most people don't know too, the major benefit that we do with our things, they actually fit tall boys, just in case anybody was wondering. So like, you can carry 9 tall boys on your person at any time. I'm not saying that I condone, you know, like drinking 9 tall boys at once. But just saying that they do fit. And the elasticity goes right back. It's pretty fantastic. So if you catch me on 4th of July, I'll probably be sitting in a kiddie pool strapped in exactly this, and probably a lot of beer and some ice in the pool because I'm gonna get hot. It's Georgia. But I think just getting out to those events and physically seeing that stuff and supporting the women out there and doing that is huge.
Yeah,
but then
for sure.
We need to continue innovating, right? Like, and I kind of explained it earlier, the next steps, right? Because I didn't create an LLC. This isn't a small business. This is C Corp, man. So I started this as a corporate structure, and I did it on purpose. Because I know where this is going to go and what it's going to do. And I think just being able to share that vision and push it out to make people truly understand who we are is one of the most important things we can do off the rip. Because, yeah, we're doing things different, right? Like, we make carriers that are different, right? Like, obviously I'm rocking a retro rifle carrier, but like, I don't think anybody else does it. Oh wait, that's right. Nobody else fucking does it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're going to get some other things too, right? Like, I've got a couple other, like the jazzy shirt and the Boogaloo Boy shirts, whatever they want to call them. And we're going to get out there and start just doing some matching stuff. But like, this stuff didn't actually come from just making like cool and jazzy carriers. It actually came from like serving at the Miami Police Department, right? So that's actually the first ones that kind of hit us up for something like this, was because they're doing low vis ops. Right. So, and we want to get into like definitions of camouflage and different things like that. Because I mean, in all reality, right, like, if I took this chest panel off and I just threw a standard panel over it, like, you really wouldn't be able to tell that I'm wearing.
Dude, I've been sitting here watching you, and the pattern on the vest actually seamlessly meshes with like the pattern on your right
that's
shoulder.
Exactly
it's awesome.
Like, you can see it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's carrier, baby. So, and obviously everything here is still all very compliant and everything like that. So, and that's what we do. We run a very compliant facility. We make sure it's all made in America. It's all done right here in the shop. We don't outsource shit. Everything's done here. And that's a big thing that I have, right? I have trust issues. So, you know what I mean?
I think that's a good trust issue.
I don't disagree.
Because I like your QA/QC that you're talking about with the red seams. If you see red seams, that shit is no go. It's going back to the floor or whatever. But also, you have a certain element of control when, I assume you're working in the manufacturing facility, right? So you're there every day. So like, just your presence there alone ensures that the right thing's getting done, because they don't know when you're going to walk through that door and come check something out, right? So there's times a day. And there's no time for them to fuck off, right? Like we all know how privates are in the Army, right? Like, sergeant walks away, they will play, right?
And I'll tell you that though, right? Like, I brought this up earlier, right? Like, I don't know shit about sewing, man. Like, I don't know. I've learned a dramatic amount. I've learned way more than I wanted to. Like, dude, we're gonna make Chris some like really, really adorable like red chonies here soon. For 4th of July, they're gonna look spectacular. He's gonna look so great. I'm so excited.
Out of control.
Yeah, sorry. All right, I'll dial it back in, Chris. Thanks.
Hey, I don't know. No. Time out, because Chris, you want to talk about out of control on 4th of July? I've got some stories that we could tell from our time right after Afghanistan on a boat downtown Seattle for 4th of July.
I
You
saw a
talk
photo
about
from that,
shit
actually.
getting. Have you seen the
I
photo
believe I
of
saw
me
it.
and Chris? Me and Chris are standing on the bow of this boat with American flags tied around our necks, Titanic and that shit. And what was cool about that whole experience is me, Chris, it was me, Chris, and Wesley Williams were the only 3 Army dudes on this entire boat. And I think we were all fucking drunk before we ever took off. The people pouring drinks down our throat. What a night, dude. I don't even remember half the night, but Chris has been known to get wild on 4th of July. So Red Chonies has not surprised me.
Oh, it's
in
gonna
the
be a
least.
full, red, white, and blue thon. So
Yeah, hell yeah. Right up Chris's
I
alley
know
for
it.
sure.
I know it
Yeah.
is.
Now they're going to know.
Yeah, we're just putting you out there, Chris. Sorry.
So not only do you have the brand merchandising business, you've got Gray Group, but you're also deeply involved with QRFup.org, helping veterans in crisis. So you are on the board of directors of that. I remember just a couple of weeks ago when you put that on LinkedIn. I think I even probably commented on it. I don't know. But tell us about QRF Up and why that's so important to you.
All right, dude, don't let me get emotional now. Sorry, I had to have this conversation earlier. But no, man. So QRF Up is it's a phenomenal organization, right? They ran their pilot in Minnesota, and they ran it for, I want to say, 3 or 6 months. But they were able to stop 1,120 veteran suicides during that time.
Say that number one more time.
1,120. So, and how it works is this, right? It is an application you download on your phone, and it is specifically niche for active duty service members, veterans, and first responders. All right, that is who this is designed around, and for, right? So the entire purpose is you have it on your phone, and it actually gives you kind of like a check your buddy chat that you can go in and check out, right? But it has your red hot button in it, and we have all been there in those low moments and in those points where you're just like, dude, like, I am the common denominator that is hurting everybody around me. And the easiest solution is to remove myself from that equation. Right. And that's kind of the best way that I can describe those feelings of when, that darkness creeps in and you begin to gain those suicidal thoughts and it runs that way. And you can go in there and you know that's happening, and you know that your chemistry's off, and you know that that's there, right? Like, we are still coherent of it, but we are in that place, and you can tap that red button on it, and it puts you directly in touch with a therapist or mental health professional, and you get to sit there and talk with them, all right, and they're going to do it, and you can work through whatever you can with them. And then that mental health professional has an option, right? Of like, okay, hey, look, I think we're able to work through this, and you were able to kind of resolve this between you and I. I'm going to set this timer up, and it's for 2 hours or 3 hours, whatever their assessment is at that point. And you are going to call me back, and we're going to talk again, right? Or if you don't call me back, I'm sending the QRF Up response team, all right? To go find you and go do that and help. Because how many times do we ever get on a hotline or a phone or anything like that, and they're like, oh yeah, cool, I'm good, like, whatever, fuck you, and I'm gonna go do whatever I want. All right.
The existing hotlines are a fucking joke.
Yeah. And then as well too, right, if that provider is like, hey man, like, nope, like, I don't think we can get off the phone, we need to send somebody to come actually intervene with you. They're sending volunteers that have gone through our training and done that, and they're veterans, they're our brothers, they're who we want to come help us in those moments, and it puts out a blast with anybody within 100 miles, right, who is a responder, and then they will come get to you, right, and we're working all the details out of like getting them like a gas gift card and like getting those different things to help go do that. You know what I mean? Because we're all struggling too, right? Like, we get it. And it's going to be dudes like us who are going to be these responders who are going to go help them and get out there and actually show up and be like, hey man, like, what's going on? And, I'd much rather be it, you know what I mean, like one of us coming up and coming to help me than having the cops knock on my door, which is only going to escalate the situation even further. Because when I'm already in a flight or fright response and I'm already at that level, you showing up, and I understand they have to protect themselves, they have to do those things, right? I understand the hospitals have to do that. I get it. But there's such a stigma around PTSD and veterans that they immediately come in with this, and how many dudes end up getting locked up. Like, I know a bunch of them who they were in those moments, they were drunk, they were armed, they were just not in that right point, and they showed up and the police escalated the situation. Not saying that I don't just believe in that the cops are there to do the right thing and to help, but in that moment, in our minds, that wasn't it. And I hit my fight or flight response, and I'm telling you right now, I'm fucking fighting, right? And like, well, guess what? And I just got hemmed up for assaulting a police officer and insulting a peace officer. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm gonna go sit in county for the next 6-7 months.
And there's just something about a veteran brother or sister showing up, right, that automatically seems to de-escalate the situation, right? Like, I don't know. I can speak for myself. When I was like that, if it would have been a brother or sister that had just served, it would have been a much different situation. It would have been kind of instant chill out, some element of knowing that I'm safe to kind of break that fight or flight. So, I need to know how to become a part of this as part of the response team, because obviously I'm in a position to do that, and I would love to do that because it's what I do here. And that's awesome, man. So, how do you balance all of the business and the volunteer work with QRF.org?
Caffeine and no sleep, brother. Right?
That's not the right answer.
No, right? Look, I'm a pillar of health, boys.
He's not wrong.
No, man. Honestly, just being truthful, right? That is where it's at right now. You know, like it is that. And that's only half the shit I have on my plate. Like, I work in the with a couple foundations as well too for anti-human trafficking, as well as we're kicking off our own foundation and 501c3 and 501c11 currently, to actually put up 5 training centers as well as rehabilitation centers within the United States. So, Adam, I think you might have a bigger piece in this because one of them is going in Florida. It's on the other side of the state.
Let me know, brother.
Like, we'll figure it out. But like, we're doing that, and I want it to really look at it and go around the aspect of like, hey, like, we need to provide retreats for veterans in the United States, and if we can do it on tribal land, guess what? Like, we can get other things done that the Fed can't tell us we can't. So I think that ties into really what you've been talking about and what you're preaching with it. But then as well too for victims of human trafficking, and then, you know, there needs to be a program for that, because this aftercare that's out there is trash, man. And there's a lot of programs out there, and I'm not bad mouthing anybody else out there trying to make a difference. You know what I mean? But like, there's not enough of it, and so many people turn their fucking nose up at it, and it's disgusting, dude. Like, it's gross. Like, just
it's no different than starting this, right? To just to help our brothers and sisters who are either transitioning or have transitioned. It's like, identify the problem and then look for solutions to the problem, and you're not finding any out there. Okay, I'll be the solution to the problem. I don't have a fucking clue what I'm doing, but I am a veteran and I do want to help, so I'll figure it out, and I'll create something
to get it fucking done. You know what I mean? Like, and I preach this all the time, man. It's like, if you put the right people around the table and in the room, you are going to get shit done. All right.
Every time.
It comes whether we're building products, right? Like, I was showing you one of our plates that we got coming out, and I'm going to hook you up here in a second. You know what I mean? Like, we're coming out with, you know, a complete women's apparel line, and a complete, like, we're getting rid of inner belts, dude. Like, why aren't we putting them on a regular belt? Or why aren't we just seaming that into the pants? Like, that's stupid. It's a simple problem, right? Like just people that apply a little bit of common sense to things, but they're like, oh, but then my profit margin goes down. Like, well, why don't you just fucking be better and make better products, right? Like, whatever happened to the American dream? Oh, well, I guess fucking look at that. So, you know what I mean? Like, but if we just get the right people in to do these things and build those teams, right? So, and actually, I told Ram. So Ram is he's the founder of QRF Up. I told him I was going to tell you all this. So Ram and I text almost every day. So I texted him last night, and it said on here, I'm like, how are you doing? You sounded agitated after or during that brief. And he's like, to answer your question, brother, I'm agitated. Aside from Cynthia, Kayla, and yourself, I can't seem to get, all the team, how to figure out how really revolutionary this is and the scope of what we're doing. I have multiple organizations going while trying to launch this and get, and just consistently getting resistance from the government agencies, officials, and politicians. We have lost so many brothers to suicide. They feel so unheard, and most are not even likely combat veterans, which even makes it worse because then they feel even more isolated. I wish we could just support them and the men and women who continue to serve in the even after in the military or federal service and civil service to local governments. So I text him back, right? Because I think this is that buddy check that we all need, and this is what true right teams do. I'm like, this is a marathon, brother, not a sprint. Don't allow the outside bullshit to cast a shadow over the vision. People like us are not normal. We do not fit in the box our society and government wants to keep us in. We have lived outside of the societal normalcy for too long, and we are here to upset the established order because the system is failing. We are the light in the darkness, and I'm right beside you to fight this uphill battle every day because what we are doing fucking matters. And I'm recruiting some real pipe hitters for us. And he shot me back. He's like, damn, bro, like, no shit. You just brought me back. I'm here just dusting off. And I'm like, that's what we're here for. We're both a little crazy and we know it. That's fine. And I'm like, but at the end of the day, Ram, like, we're going to change the fucking world.
Yeah, man.
All right. And like, I told him I was going to tell you all that. He's like, okay, I don't care. Let's go. Because Ram and I are a lot alike. I don't care. Right. Like if you don't like me, like, cool story, bro. Like, get in line. There's a fucking long one. You know what I mean? Like, sweet.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, I'm a dick. I know I'm a dick. It's fine. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm going to call it as I see it. And if I don't want to work with you, I'm going to tell you I don't want to fucking work with you because I think you're a scumbag. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it is the way that it is, man.
And that's the best way to be, though, man. Like,
just
honestly, yes. There's something about it, right? Like going through the course to become a psychedelic integration and addiction recovery coach. They try to do all this like coddle stuff, and I'm like, this is why I specifically want to work with veterans, because Chris will tell you my approach is very direct. I don't have time to beat around the bush. I'm going to call it like I fucking see it. I'm going to let you know about it. And honestly, I think it served me well through my whole career. There's a reason Chris called me. There's a reason that I still have guys that are in the Army that I still mentor to this day. And I've been out a decade, right? Like, because I'm not afraid to call you on your bullshit. And I'm going to let you know how it is immediately. And we need more of that. Like, dude, I couldn't agree with you more, man. Like, and what you said to Ram, dude, you're right. It's a marathon, not a sprint, right? Maybe people aren't listening to this right now, but in a year, I guarantee you they're going to hear what I have to say because I'm not going to stop saying it.
Yeah. And you know what, man, like at the end of the day too, and why I got vested into QRF, right? And just transparency. So like throughout my career and up to date, 39 of my friends have killed themselves. All right. Like that is a staggering fucking number.
That's a platoon of people.
Yeah. And that's just in suicide. Way more dudes have died from suicide than in combat. 100%.
Yeah. And you do the studies coming out every day. Like we
22 a day isn't even close.
It's like double that.
It's almost triple
it's like
that,
40.
Dude. It's almost triple that. And that's what's being fucking reported. Like, and this is a problem. And I've been talking to people, right? And like my transition, we talk transition problems, right? I retired in September. I just got my fucking first check.
7 months with no back pay.
No back pay.
How the fuck is that possible?
They're behind. I call.
Yeah, well, that's not an excuse. You guys gonna do
your fucking job this month? Nope. Still fucked. Cool. Thanks.
Thanks. Fuckers.
Yeah. Like,
did my job for you for 14 fucking years. I'm just asking you to do your job for a fucking month.
Like, it's fine. I'll just go fucking continue to rack up. Like, fuck my credit score.
Well, so here, you want to hear something even more fucked up? I was cruising LinkedIn yesterday, as I always do, because that's what it takes to build an audience and a personal brand. But I came across this post, and for the life of me, I can't remember. So if you're listening to this show, I'm giving you the credit. I just don't remember who you were that posted this, but he posted this article saying that senior leadership in the Army particularly in the Army, is not allowing E7s and above to use the Skill Bridge program. They're denying them access to the Skill Bridge program. And that really hurts me because my long-term vision for the strategic veteran is to become a Skill Bridge program that really teaches digital entrepreneurship to veterans, because one, entrepreneurship is not presented to veterans. Two, the ACAT process is bullshit. And three, I think that this can do some real good for veterans. I'm not saying it's for everybody. I know sometimes it comes off like that, but wouldn't you like to have this as an option for your last 6 fucking months?
So,
you know, and now we're denying the people who need it the most institutionalized of our military are being denied access to a program that at the very least is going to get them access to Coursera and fucking, you know, things that will make them more palatable in the civilian world. Right. Like, it's just mind blowing to me. And I think I left a pretty out of character comment for me. It was a pretty angry one. Like, oh, imagine fucking shitty leadership, fucking controlling. It's just, man, it gets me going, dude. It just, like, there's no reason to be that way. And I think that's a large reason, like, why we get along, having only met through Chris, is like, we're on the same path. We're here to do the same fucking thing.
So I'll plug you in with one more. Cause I just talked to this dude yesterday. So his name's Ryan Hammer. And he owns a veteran lending team. So they're based, I want to say he said South Carolina. Don't quote me if I'm wrong. But he's a veteran. He got out, and he is creating a banking system that he is basing it where it is only for veterans, ran by veterans. That's it.
Hell yeah.
And when dudes need help and they need monetary things, whether it's for their businesses, whether it's for buying a house, whether it's for getting into other things, like, and because they know, look at me, dude, like, I got a 500 credit score right now, dude. Like, because I just spent 7 months without a paycheck. They turned off my TRICARE on me twice. Think about that, because where do you pay your TRICARE? It comes directly out of your check. You can't just call and pay TRICARE. I had to fight with them to let me pay the $150 just to turn my TRICARE back on. You know what I mean? Like, I had to take 2 personal loans and sell my fucking house, right, just to make ends meet. You know what I mean? And then I fired a business all on top of it. I'm fucked. But we'll dig out of this. We'll be fine.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And that's the attitude you have to have.
And it is, right?
Yeah,
like,
I'll dig out of this.
Things will always come back. And they absolutely do. And as long as you're doing things for the right reasons. But Ryan and I were talking about this exact thing yesterday. Sorry, I told you my dog was going to come in and
I lost that bet. I didn't lose it. I agreed with you.
I closed the door and I was getting really upset. But him and I were talking about that, and he's like, dude, that is an easy fix, man. Like, we can absolutely get like a personal loan done up at like a super low interest rate. And as their back pay comes in, everything comes in, like, they're good. Because we know what they're getting for disability. We already know it. We can underwrite that, right? They still got to play in the laws of banking, right? There are rules,
right?
And he brought it up too. He's like, because we were talking about gray group, we were talking about, you know, gray zone and all that different shit. And he's like, dude, like, you have to operate in the gray to protect our people, because things aren't just straight black and white. He's like, in traditional banking right now is fucked. And he's like, and
it's
I'm
so
going
bad,
after him, dude. And so he's actually right now, and just to plug him in, like, I'm switching all my banking over to him, because, like, fuck Wells Fargo. Like, they're trash. I won't use USA or Navy Fed anymore, because they're fucking trash pandas. You know what I mean? Like,
I've never liked USA, like, ever.
They're trash pandas, dude. But like, I'm switching all my shit over to Ryan here in the next week, hands down about it. And I'm like, hey man, like, I've got these projects on the horizon and I need funding, dude. And he's like, get me the proposals of it all, get me, and I'll put it in front of investors and I'll hunt grants for you, and we'll get this done, because I want to be working for dudes like you, and we need to support you as you're supporting us. And I'm like, fucking done, dude.
Say no more, dude.
You know what I mean? Like,
no,
dude,
that's
like,
awesome.
Adam, honestly, this is a dude you need to reach out to and get him on here and start doing his stuff, because
absolutely, man. This is what this is. This is our first conversation together, Mark. It was like, I want to partner with dudes like you who are on the same path. And your words to me were, Chris says you're a good dude. You're a good dude. And I want to help my brothers and sisters. Like that was the end of the conversation. It was like, yeah, I'll send you some shit. You promote me, I'll promote you. We'll put you on the website, everything else. I'll connect you with people. Excited about the beginning of next year. Man, am I excited about that. So excited about that. But this is my point, right? This is why I'm creating the Stronghold that launches on August 1st, to bring veterans in at a nominal fee, because it still costs me money and time to do things, but to give you access to networking opportunities, to connect you with people like Mark and Chris and Rod and anybody else I've had on this show, to get you just unparalleled resources all in one spot as we continue to gather them. And I continue to talk to people like this and opportunities, and they're eventually teach you how to get your SDVOB so you can take government contracts, because that's like the easiest. It is a pain in the ass, but it's really like there are people out there that are willing to help you do this, and it doesn't have to be as painful as you think it is. And that's really just kind of my aim with all of this, is like, I've met some incredible people along the way who have informed all of the decisions I have made, who have presented opportunity to me, who have actively not asked me for anything other than a testimonial. And it's like that's how we can all build something together that's also our own. And dude, I mean, yeah, it's incredible what we're capable of as a community.
Veterans are gonna bring America back, dude. Like the country is on a very, very odd path right now, and it is what it is, right? Like, we don't need to go on the political, you know what I mean? Because that's dangerous. But like, veterans are going to be the ones who are going to sit there and make the fucking difference in this country. Because,
well, you know, and to prove that point, the reason I started this, I read a military.com article. I actually just found it again the other day. After World War II, 73% of small business in America was owned by veterans. That number after Korea fell to like 30-something%. Take a stab at what it is for post 9/11 veterans.
I bet it's 80%.
It's 80. How much? No. It's 6%.
Wow.
6% of small businesses in the United States right now are owned by veterans. Wow. That's it. So to me, it immediately screamed education problem.
Yep.
Right? Because how do you have the greatest generation owning 73% of small business, and in 2 generations that has fallen to 6%? That means we have an education problem.
No, 100%, man. Like 100%.
And this is how we educate our community. Just if you're sitting on your couch feeling fucking miserable and sorry for yourself, stuck in that transition hole, this is what I would have needed to get out of that. I wouldn't have needed to go to Peru and do ayahuasca. I needed to see examples of guys talk about the shit that they went through, the shit that they had to deal with, how dark it got for them, and then see them doing shit like what you're doing with QRF Up and with Gray Group and with your branding business. And like, to know that that's possible and that I am capable, and to see somebody who walked the same path that I did, to me was like, that's how I can make a difference. And man, I'll be damned if I don't think that it's working. I really do think it's working.
No, 100%. I think it's working. And honestly, like, at the end of the day, like, we're going to support our own. Right? Like, I don't care if you're going in direct competition with me in business. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, that doesn't bother me at all. Because I had a dude over here the other day. He is in direct competition with me. And he's like, dude, I can't get some of this material. I can't get some of this. I just sent him a couple yards of it. My direct competition. Well, he ain't my direct competition. I'm a little bigger. But you know what I mean? Like, but he's building something to go on those routes. And I sent him some of my material so he can get his samples in. And
because the shit you put in the universe comes back to you tenfold, and that's going to come back around.
Man. And if we're not going to support our own, like,
nobody else is going to do it.
You don't belong in the fucking community anymore. You don't belong in the industry. And that's my problem with the industry. Because so many of these industry leaders now and in the 2A community, you're a bunch of fucking snobs. Like, you're a bunch of fucking snobs. Like, sorry. Like, you don't know your left and your right fucking limit anymore because you think your shit don't stink, dude. And I hate to break it to you. I don't care how many fucking things you won, how many things you did. Like, I'm coming for your ass. Because I'm going to make something better than you, and I'm going to fucking beat you every day because I'm willing to row every fucking day. And,
man.
Like, I work 90 hours a week, boys. Like, get on my fucking level.
I don't even count,
Like,
to
no,
be
I don't
honest,
anymore.
dude.
But I had to figure
I
out a
think for
valuation
me,
for how much I'm worth. And it was a whole thing. It was terrible, actually.
well, I don't know. I think you might agree with this. Like for me, I love what I'm doing so much that it just, this is what I want to do with my free time. Like free time to me is like, how can I move the business forward? Right? Like how can I get better guests? And speaking to that, like some of the shit I've accomplished, and we all know I dropped the first episode of this show on May 1st. Shortly thereafter, I had some meeting with some podcasters just to learn what I didn't know, because that's what we do. And they pointed me to Podmatch, which is a platform where you can be a guest or a host, and you can find guests for your show and find people to host you as a guest on their show. And I started as a host on that platform. And as of talking to you right before we started, I checked it. I'm number 67 in the world on that platform, in the top 1.9%. And I honestly couldn't tell you how I do it. I just paid the $6 and I started reaching out to people, and magic started happening. So the other day, I built my guest profile because, as you know, to grow a podcast, you need to go on other people's podcasts. And within 5 minutes of my profile being public, I had 2 people reach out to me and book me as a guest on their podcast. And it's like, nice. Why did these other people tell me that this didn't bear any fruit for them? I've paid $12 for 2 months of being on this platform. I'm in the top 1.9% as a host, and I'm booking left and right guest appearances on other people's shows. They're not as soon as I would like, but it's still a win.
Dude, it's work ethic.
And
it's
right, exactly.
Work ethic, right? And what are we failing at as a country as a fucking whole, dude? It's work ethic. Nobody wants to put in fucking work, dude. Nobody wants it. They want everything for free, and they want a handout, and they want us to tell it's going to be all okay, and that they're super special. You're not fucking special. Nobody fucking cares. Fucking just do better. Like,
I love that's a great segue into your values for everything that you do and your personal philosophy. And I know that Chris and I agree on this. But I just love how you put this. Your core values include just being a good dude. And bro, I haven't always been a good dude. In fact, I was a pretty terrible dude, and an angry dude. And I mean, Chris will tell you, he's seen me at some of my worst times. He's seen me at some of my best times, but since the ayahuasca journey, all I want to do is strive to be the best human I can to other humans. That's it. Like, and it's
just
like,
be real, man. Just be transparent.
And when you figure that out, like, how much better does life get?
It's so much simpler because, and like I said earlier, like, some people don't like me, man. That's okay. Like, I'm not going to lose sleep at night over it. Trust me, I'm losing sleep over other shit. You know what I mean? I ain't got time for that. But
you don't have to lose sleep over trying to be someone that you're not either.
I'm not going to sit here and fake it to make it, dude. Like, I'm just going to be who I am, and we're going to go and take fucking control of shit, and we're going to fix it, because that is who we are as senior non-commissioned officers, right? We find it, we see a problem, we we assess it, we move to whatever that friction point is, and we fucking fix it, and we get the goddamn job done. You know what I mean? Like, we just get it done. And and everybody looks at me like I'm fucking crazy, but that is what we do. You know what I mean? Like, and Chris fucking loves it, right? He's like, oh, here he goes. He's going on another tangent. Right? Like, because Chris always keeps me in line and keeps me in check and makes sure I don't, like, say too much stuff. Like, he is 100% like my, like, slow your ass down a little bit. You're going to get us in trouble.
Would you call him your accountability partner?
He absolutely is. Like, 100%. He definitely holds my feet to the fire all the time. And it's done, like, I couldn't, like, legitimately, like, I couldn't ask for, like, a better fucking partner in crime than my big brown buns Bobby over there. You know what I mean? Like, that's my nickname for him, if y'all didn't know.
That goes from brown bear to brown buns. Oh, Jesus.
I mean, have you seen that man in, like, some decent pants? Like, good Lord, he is handsome.
Dude, I've seen yes.
That's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous because it's true.
It is.
And you love us both.
That's a fact. You don't have a choice.
You're 3 gentlemen.
But no, man, like
Chris,
honestly, like
talk about what it's like being an accountability partner to Mark, and like what does that do for you as far as like your journey and learning business and all of that? Like how has that affected you? And honestly, since that phone call right before I dropped the first episode of this podcast, how has it changed your life?
I mean, it comes with just a different purpose, right? And with that, and having a conversation with somebody that, you know, is going, I'm not saying necessarily the same struggles, but wanting something more, right? And trying to figure that out. And that was what I got out of the conversation with Mark. And I know, and I felt, and I would never speak on his behalf on what he wanted to do.
No, go ahead.
But it gave me some purpose though, right? And so I didn't think of myself as much of an accountability buddy. And I could just remember being at the S3 shop when we were working there. And Mark would just be, you know, fully involved in whatever operation. And I was like, man, lighten up, dude. And he'd be like, not okay. Or, you know, and maybe it's that kind of accountability. And so, you know, Mark is very direct, right? We kind of have that yin and yang going on, you know, at times, but also that's like a switch, you know, like I said, it's reciprocal. And the fact that that is our relationship, that's our dynamic. And whenever we have conversations on what progression looks like, and even for us individually, right? The question was always, what are we? You know, it sounds really, you know, oh, what are we? who are we? What do we value? What do we want to surround ourselves around? It's like, okay, these guys are full of shit. But the thing is, these are really great questions to ask ourselves, right? I'm not saying that, you know, the universe is coming down and handing us like this golden light or anything. Like, we're just talking about who do we want to be today, and how do we end at that, you know, at that objective. So, and really the process with being his accountability buddy. I mean, Mark is a character, dude. He blows my mind just because he's so innovative, right? But then also there's this part of where he can just see 3 or 4 steps down, and you're just like, what? Where did that come from, dude? It's like, yeah, I'm already ahead of that, dude. I'm like, oh man, I'm like a sleeper or something, I guess. You know, like I'm not with you. It's like, that's what I've learned as far as the business aspect, you know, to answer that question. So, no, it's just been,
nice,
it's been, you know, truly humbling, right? And just an amazing experience to have and be partnered up with Mark and this company. So,
dude, awesome. Mark, for you, based on all your experiences, what advice do you have for veterans who are transitioning, interested in entrepreneurship, or just not falling so deep down the transition hole?
Yeah, man. So first is like you gotta read, dude. Is knowing those programs before you get out. And there's such a flood of it because and don't think that you can just like make a phone call over to somebody and they're gonna have answers, because there's so many programs they have no fucking clue what they're talking about. And that's the truth. Like you have got to be like, okay, this is my situation. You need to do your research and read. And I get it. Like a lot of us don't like to do that. Like I'm the opposite. I read way too much. It's just what I do. I like to read dry shit too. I like to read doctrinal stuff. Yeah, I know, dude. I know. Like,
you can keep that
right?
shit.
Like it's all fun games. Like I went in and like rewrote a bunch of like UN doctrine stuff once. You know what I mean? Like I'm a published author. No big deal. So yeah, I mean, like I told y'all, I'm a nerd, man.
There's nothing wrong with that.
You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things that like you have to force yourself to do it, right? Like as NCOs and as officers and different things like that within the military, you're expected to understand, you know what I mean, what your military regulations are, right? Like you need to go through and you need to understand what those programs are, what they're there for, and how to best serve your soldiers as a servant leader. And if you're not doing that, you're not a fucking leader, right? Like get out the room and pack your shit up. So like you need to hold yourself accountable to that, and you need to actually dive into some of that stuff and figure out what they are out there and what to help you. And then 2 is like you need to start building your network immediately, right? Like stop and right, like don't get me wrong. All right, boys, I'm super far behind on the social medias. I get it. No big deal. I got like 100 followers now on Instagram on my personal one. So My mom's one. She tells me I'm special all the time. You know what I'm saying? But like, it's, dude, you have to do it. I know it sucks. I get it. I didn't like, I was on Googleable until about 6 months ago, man. And I prided myself in that, right? Like I really, really did. And I loved being that gray entity that just was out there and doing shit. But if you want to be successful in this world, like you have to get out there. Excuse me. And you have to put a face behind your brand. You have to put a face to your product, and you have to be willing to do that. Because if you don't, like I'm telling you right now, I'm not gonna fucking trust you, right? Like outside of my trust issues, you know what I'm saying? But like, had you not, when you called me, like been on FaceTime and talked to me, and or whatever to Google Meet, I don't know, Chris set it up. He does that stuff for me, right? Like, dude, he saves me every day. All right. I'm like, oh, fucking Georgia's coming in. It's gonna rain now.
Yeah. We're about to
But
get it
like,
here
yeah,
too.
dude. So like, you have to
building the
start
network
networking
is so important.
and getting that
Yeah,
stuff
it's so
going
important.
Off the rip, because if you don't, you're going to be lost, dude, because it's overwhelming, and you have to. That would be my advice.
Yeah. Chris, what's your advice?
I'm going to mute
You know-
so you don't have to listen to this.
What's that? Oh, sorry. My advice is honestly just take the risk. You know, I like to, like I said before, I just like keeping it very simple. Take the risk. Understand. I mean, obviously, do the homework, right? But also believe in yourself in that time frame wherever you're able to have all these options laid out. Go for it. Look. I mean, don't go in blindly, but believe that there is something that is waiting for you on that side to where you can tackle that dream, right? So it's just my thing. Like I've been given opportunities for days, and sometimes I just don't listen to it. I don't want to hear it, and man, I called up Mark. I was like, "What's going on?" I wanted to just congratulate you. Then he's like, here's a job offer." And I was like, "What the heck is that?" And so sometimes you just got to do it. You know, and as simple as that sounds, I don't want anyone to ever feel like it is that simple in a sense, but having the ability to just be confident with your own decisions, just get through the barrier and you'll see it's rewarding on the other side.
Yeah, trust your gut from time to time because it's usually, well, at least I've found that mine's usually 100% right all of the time. And
I hate it.
I mean, honestly, like I've gone against my gut several times in my life, and I can see exactly where I got burned with doing that. Like my instincts generally aren't wrong. And I think that's true for most people, particularly like what Mark was saying, building your network is so important because you're going to meet those people that are then going to be able to bounce your intuition off of and tell you that you're making the right decision, right? You don't get that without networking and meeting people outside of your comfort zone. And I'm 100% in on what both of you said. Stop being afraid of yourself and your intuition and take the risk. If you want to start a laser printing business and you do it for fun anyway, what do you have to lose at that point? Take the fucking risk because it's so rewarding when you figure out how to make it work, because you're never going to have to work for somebody ever again, ever. You're going to get to do everything your way on your terms in your time, whatever that looks like to you. For Mark, it looks like working 19 hours a day, and being involved in probably way too much. Yeah. But if that works for him and he's happy doing that and he doesn't want to put a gun in his mouth, that's good enough for me, right? If being head of distribution for Grey Group Tactical is what works for Chris and it keeps me from getting phone calls like, hey man, I wanted to kill myself, I'm checking out of this program right now, then I'm all for it. Do that, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to keep you mentally fit and then ultimately physically fit and emotionally and spiritually fit and all of those things. So, Mark, tell everybody how we can get in touch with you, where we can find you, all that good stuff, so that they can go and run out and buy X-Fit plate carriers immediately and whip their ass into shape.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So first you can just catch us over at greygrouptactical.com. It's GREY. Just for, those of you who can't spell and switch it back and forth. I know, look, the English language is hard. They flip-flop, you know what I mean? But yeah, no, catch us out at the website. You can also catch us at any of our social handles at Grey Group Tactical. We've got a bunch of stuff that we do on Instagram and getting things out. We've got a couple different like intel chats and different things y'all can jump in on and find it. You hit our website. It's got all of our social platform stuff on there. It's got my LinkedIn profile on there. It's got everything. And then if you guys are just interested in setting something up, jump on our calendars or just give us a call down at the shop. Our number is 520-4981. And I'm here a lot, right? Like 6 days a week, potentially 7. So I'm here quite a bit. Just give us a call, man, and come and reach out. Like if you guys need help, you need to jump into different business advice. You know what I mean? You're looking for gear. You want to get out the range in the local area. That's cool. I've got like 57 affiliates right now that are repping some of our gear all the way across the different space, which is huge. And then we're gonna be out at a bunch of different ranges. We got range days coming up. We've got a bunch of different stuff. Because we're gonna take over the world, man, and just do better. Like, because that's what veterans are. Like,
I love it, dude. I love it, dude. For both of you, any final announcements, advice, any final thoughts you want to leave the listeners with?
Yeah, I'm gonna just go ahead and correct my buddy here, Mark. I'm actually from the Marshall Islands.
Whatever. I still love your face. All right.
You know, and what I love,
I knew it was coming.
I have to say that because everybody knows, like Dwayne Johnson, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. It's like Jason Momoa. It's like, hey, look at, that Islander dude. Like, first off, I know I don't look Islander.
Whatever.
I guess. But the Marshall
Islands. Ramathorn. All right.
That mustache does make it look like Ramathorn. So you got to get him a hat, dude. You got to get him a hat.
Forever again. Because he just makes me so
I think he needs to go the full. I think he needs the full beard, dude. I bet Chris can grow an amazing beard.
It's super thick. It's super thick.
Yeah, of course. Look at that mustache.
And I realize like I'm still a child and it's like patchy on the sides. So I'm just like, whatever. I got like an inch of like facial hair off this morning. I'm like, I should probably do this. I'm like, oh my god.
Virginia hates this. So it's for the 4th of July, man. I hope the viewers are going to have a good 4th of July. So
hell yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Mark Messina from Grey Group Tactical and Chris Ingram also from Grey Group Tactical. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. Don't forget to like, rate, review, subscribe, download. Help us get this in front of 1 million veterans before I turn 40 on May 9th, 2025. Lofty goal, but if any community on the planet can do it, it's the veteran community. So Mark, Chris, thank you so much for joining me. Mark, grateful for the partnership, man, and all the opportunity that you're bringing with it. I'm so grateful for that and really appreciate it. I think this is the beginning of something beautiful for the future. And
between us, brother.
Brother.
Don't you worry.
But I am, man. I'm genuinely humbled and grateful that you would help me out and give me the opportunity to help you out, however that looks. And I appreciate the hell out of your time. I know you're a busy man, so thank you for doing this. And we'll catch you guys next time. Take care, everybody.